Risk of 60 miles an hour wind gusts widely, and the risk across some western parts of the UK of 70 to 80 mile per hour wind gusts. That's why there's an amber warning in force for western areas, and it's worth staying up to date with all the latest forecasts.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The Prime Minister faces backlash after setting out his 6 key milestones.
Sir Keir Starmer is accused of watering down 2 of his key election pledges amid signs the economy is struggling in the wake of the budget.
Well, in his speech, he also promised to take on NIMBYs, holding major projects to ransom as he ushers in a new era.
I expect to be judged on my ability to deal with it. And the work of change has begun.
France in crisis. Emmanuel Macron vows to stay on as president after his government is toppled following a no-confidence vote.
A breakthrough in lung cancer treatment. Scientists create a urine test which can detect the first signs of the disease. We're going to be talking to the scientists who created the groundbreaking test.
And a new poll has revealed that voters believe the UK should prioritise its relationship with Europe over the US. We're asking this morning, are they right?
Are you feeling plucky today?
Yes.
It's My Turkey Day, where Britain celebrates homegrown turkey meat ahead of Christmas. Our reporter Will Hollis will be on a farm in Lincolnshire.
And are you dreaming of a white Christmas? Our music legend Carol Decker will be here a little bit later to tell us all about her new Christmas single.
This is not where we do China in your hand, is it?
No, we'll do it on it.
In the sport, Spurs have a very bad night on the South Coast. Fulham move up to 6th in the Premier League. And George Russell, the Max Verstappen feud gets even worse.
Hello there. Many of us will be waking up to blue skies this morning, but Storm Dara is on its way, bringing heavy outbreaks of rain and strong winds. I'll be here with all the details.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
All right, this is where we do China in your hand, Paul.
You know what?
No, we better.
Are you sure? Well, I was just getting to take a deep breath. It's one of those songs where, as we realised, you know some of the words, but not all of them.
No, but you can sort
a
of...
foreign land, eyes wide, and there's just the odd bit.
You'd be fine in a bar.
It's
and on my own, away from anybody. Yeah.
But I love. I mean, it's one of those just incredible songs.
It was a huge song.
Massive.
See, Heart and Soul was the first one.
Heart and Soul.
Harder than that, and then China in Your Hand was huge. And are we waiting for the follow-up single now for a chat?
I don't know what came after that, if anything. But Carol has just kept on going.
Yeah.
She's absolutely incredible.
Yep.
So I'm very excited we've got Carol on the show later on.
When is she on?
She is
8:30.
on at 8:30.
Right, OK, I'll look forward to that.
So...
Just before the sports.
Excellent.
So, and actually, this is down to one of you, because someone tweeted me and said... you've seen Carol's got this new song out. Carol Decker's ever.
Oh, right.
So you went straight onto the case?
So I just texted her, because I know her anyway.
Wow.
And said, do you want to come on the show?
Great.
She was like, yeah.
Bruce Springsteen's tour next year. Can we sort that out?
Yeah, I'll text him later.
That'd be great, yeah. OK, thank you.
Very well connected.
I know you are.
Anyway, so yeah, don't miss that, and we'll have a good old sing-song, hopefully.
Now, shall we have a look at our top story today? Labour are pledging to tackle the NIMBYs and launch a golden age of house building.
It's part of Sir Keir Starmer's 6 milestones announced yesterday that he says voters can use to judge him at the next election.
Well, let's take a listen to the pledges that he made.
Higher living standards in every region of the country. Britain rebuilt with 1.5 million new homes, safer streets, more police on the beat. The best start in life for every child, with a record proportion of 5-year-olds starting school ready to learn. Clean power by 2030. Homegrown British energy. Waiting lists in our NHS cut.
Well, the announcement has been met with criticism, with warnings that his pledge to build 1.5 million homes by the end of this Parliament could be unattainable.
Well, the Prime Minister has also faced criticism for not outlining any new targets on migration.
Let's talk to the Deputy Political Editor of The Mail on Sunday, Anna Mikhailova, who's here. Good to see you, Anna.
Good morning.
What did you make of it all yesterday? Reset, relaunch, next phase?
Well, apparently not a reset, not a relaunch, emphatically from Number 10. I think, you know, our daily paper, the Daily Mail, has a sketch by Quentin Letts who puts it as Starmer's bingo hall parade of buzzwords, which I think probably sums it up. Honestly, I think it's a bit odd to be doing this. You've come in with a massive majority. You were a bit vague in the election campaign. But it's almost as if they feel like they need to relaunch themselves. It looks a bit weak in a way. It looks a bit like they don't have a big mandate and they're not feeling very confident, which is odd because they do actually have a big mandate and they do have a huge majority. So because obviously everyone has made the comparison with Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
He also launched 5 targets. And Keir Starmer he made that point himself yesterday in his speech. He referenced Sunak and he sort of criticised Sunak's targets as not being very good and some being sort of a bit obvious, and said that the whole point of these new milestones, are they milestones, are they pillars, or what are they? They are going to be emphatically difficult, so they could be things that are almost unachievable, but he says that's the point, that's the way they're challenging themselves. But a government should be challenging itself anyway. Does it really need to launch a big press conference about it?
And this glaring omission was migration.
Yeah, very, very odd not to have anything on migration. Again, I think the spectre of Rishi Sunak looms large because Sunak famously said he's going to stop the boats. That was one of the most catchy targets, and obviously not only not achieved, but nowhere near achieved. Starmer is clearly trying to avoid that mistake, but equally not having anything at all on migration when you've just had 20,000 people already come over in small boats.
But is that the problem with this? Because he says these are milestones against which he wants to be measured by the next election. And fair enough if we remember about them by then. But with migration numbers, we can click those off almost month by month to see how he's progressing.
Exactly.
So he's not going to like that, is he?
Exactly. I mean, he was obviously... It was a strange press conference in the sense that it was the elephant in the room, migration. He didn't mention... It's not one of the... it's not one of the milestones. But when asked about it, and pretty much every journalist did ask about it, Keir Starmer said that migration is sort of one of the basics that he's handling anyway. Therefore, these are additional extras to judge him on, but he's going to cut both legal and illegal migration already, so don't you worry about it. But how convincing is that, considering that it is such a difficult task. And clearly, Labour have got in and have started realising just how difficult some of these challenges are. And it is an extremely difficult job, particularly migration, which lots of countries are really struggling with. But it is very odd not to have it. Also, nothing on defence. Another big issue. In the week that we've had someone extremely senior say the army's about to, couldn't handle 6 months to a year of war.
What I found quite striking yesterday, in terms of what you were just saying there about not being prepared to govern, was the criticism of Whitehall and the criticism of the civil servants. And Sir Keir Starmer talking about civil servants being comfortable in the tepid bath of managed decline. I mean, it's the same criticism that we heard from the Tories, but now it seems that Labour are experiencing it for themselves firsthand. What do you think is going to be done to try and improve their productivity in Whitehall?
Well, that was the most political part of the speech.
Yeah.
It was definitely the most eye-catching part, and a really interesting thing to hear Keir Starmer say that, not just a Labour Prime Minister. It is something that you expect Jacob Rees-Mogg to say. And obviously we did hear things like that from Jacob. But Keir Starmer is almost a civil servant's Prime Minister, having been DPP himself, having been a very senior civil servant. What are they going to do? Again, well, there was no detail. There was just there was what we say in the trade, good language, good quotes, but we shall see. I
wonder how much of all this is aimed at just trying to win people over after a very difficult start in government. But the problem with this is, as you say, it's this sort of dichotomy of saying, well, they've got a massive majority, they've won by a landslide, and yet they seem to be on the defensive, and frankly, they're almost out of their depth.
I mean, really on the defensive. And with Sunak, for example, he only had about a year until an election could be called, or had to be called. So he sort of really he was running against the clock after several years of extreme turbulence from his predecessors. Keir Starmer's got 5 years. So he's got a majority, and he's got time on his side. So why do this? I don't really know. I mean, he obviously likes these sort of... it is quite a Blair, I think, particularly on the NHS, to have these sorts of targets, this very top-down way of managing things. So I imagine it fits in with that. People say that a lot of this is the brainchild of Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff, who started plotting this almost weeks after the election and whose main focus has been since the day they won to essentially start planning for the next one, because that is how it works with elections, and the people who are the brains behind actually designing strategies for them. So it's probably that, but it really does run the risk, and we've already had Nigel Farage already out on broadcast making the point that this could all turn into a millstone around his neck, and doesn't address the biggest point and the biggest problem, which a lot of Labour voters as well really, really care about. And a lot of Labour voters, we already know, voted reform in the last election. And I think if nothing is done, particularly with small boats, then you'll see a lot more people doing that.
Yeah, very possibly. Anna, good to see you this morning. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you. Well, at GB News, we love to hear what you think. So every day we'll be running our poll of the day. The Financial Times has said that the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, has been drafted on a list for inclusion in the New Year's honours. So today we're asking, should Sadiq Khan receive a knighthood? We'll be bringing you the live results throughout the day, so make sure you stay tuned. And the final result, as always, will be announced later in Martin Daubney's show. And if you want to get involved, just head to gbnews.com/poll.
Now, more extreme weather is heading for our shores this weekend. Storm Dara set to hit the west coast.
Oh, it's the fourth named storm of the season so far, predicted to bring winds of up to 80 miles an hour.
Let's talk to meteorologist Tamsin Green, who joins us now. Good to see you this morning, Tamsin. What can we expect?
Good morning. Well, yeah, Storm Dara is quite significant in a few different aspects. It's bringing really prolonged strong winds, so a really long duration of winds. Its wind direction is also something of note, and then its track of the overall storm as well. So we're going to be seeing quite widespread strong winds. As you said before, 70 to 80 miles an hour along coastal areas, possibly locally exceeding that for some really exposed spots. Even inland, we could be seeing 60 to 70 miles an hour. That's going to be churning up some really large waves along the coast as well. So we're going to be seeing some really damaging winds and waves, some really impactful weather with those kind of wind strengths.
More named storms at the moment. It certainly feels as though we are.
Yeah, so this is the fourth named storm of the season. We're actually up to similar to what we saw in 2023. In 2023, we were up to D at this point as well. But then the days following, we then saw E and F just a few days after in close succession. So we're at a similar sort of level. Last year saw one of the highest named storm seasons on record. We've only been recording them for the past 10 years or so. But it was a particularly stormy year. So we're up to a similar level to what we saw last year for now.
It just seems so miserable at the moment, to be honest, doesn't it? I mean, it's getting... I know we're heading towards the shortest day, but, you know, you don't want to go out. The weather's terrible. When on earth are things going to start to improve?
I know this weekend is going to be exceptionally windy. It's not going to be the most pleasant. Don't get me wrong, it's not going to be that much in the way of rainfall in comparison to, say, what we saw in Burt. There's still going to be some significant rainfall, still a risk of flooding, not quite as much as what we saw in Burt. The main thing here will be wind. So for some of us, we'll be seeing sunny, blue skies and really strong winds. And as I said, it will be a significant one because, you know, for parts of Wales, Anglesey, they could be seeing 15 hours plus of 70-mile-an-hour winds. So it's really prolonged duration of strong winds here. But then as the weekend then comes to a close, it is an improving picture through the following week. So high pressure looks to settle in. We could see something quieter for next week. So it does look like an improving picture after in the wake of Storm Dara.
Oh, heck.
Well, there's a little bit of hope on the horizon there.
Well, sort of. Only a little tiny bit. Tamsin, good to see you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we were saying this morning, it is miserable outside, isn't it? It truly is. We need some sunlight.
And the problem is, even today, I mean, it wasn't raining for me today on the drive down, but the main road that I use was shut off because of flooding.
Ah.
So you see, because it's all that after effect.
Yeah.
It takes a while, doesn't it? So I spent most of this morning driving around the sort of back end of towns I've never heard of.
Oh, no. But you did sing along to Annie the Musical and you've learnt all of the words to Tomorrow.
Yes, that's what I did. I learnt the lyrics to Tomorrow on the drive down.
So it's been a productive morning.
It's what you have to do to get yourself going at 3 o'clock in the morning, isn't it?
Keep yourself awake when you're on the back roads. Oh, dear.
There you go.
Now, at 6:15, still to come, a new discovery could detect very early signs of lung cancer. We'll be talking about that next.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
My next guest knew George Carman rather intimately. Indeed, he immediately asked her for her hand in marriage when they first met. Karen Phillips knew Carman from 1986 and was a close friend until his death in 2001. Karen has used court transcripts and personal documents to construct her new book, Get Carman. There it is. And here you are. Karen, thank you very much indeed. So you knew him very well, and actually he began to write a little bit of an autobiography just in the weeks before his death. And from those pages, I was struck by the amount of uncertainty that there was about the man. This man who was so confident in court, who charmed juries so famously, but in some ways felt that he was an actor, in some ways felt that he was fighting back nerves and uncertainties. Is that true?
I think he was quite worried about every case. It was much more that he was concerned for the client. He always wanted to do his best. He worked so hard to win a case, not really for his personal satisfaction, but because he didn't want to let people down.
His success rate was extraordinary, and, you know, I'll choose my words carefully here, but shall we say that many people were surprised at the time that Jeremy Thorpe was found not guilty. It was astonishing in the case of Jonathan Aitken, for example, that the principal charge against him, which was that he'd been corrupt in arms dealings, I don't think that was ever actually reached during the court. It seems even more surprising today that people who were employed by Mohammed Fayed were believed in the case of Neil Hamilton. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, his results are extraordinary.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
6:18, good morning to you. Now, there has been a remarkable medical breakthrough. Scientists have created a world-first urine test that can detect the very early signs of lung cancer.
Yes, researchers hope that patients can receive treatment sooner, giving them a better chance of overcoming the disease.
Well, Professor of Bio-Nanoengineering at the University of Cambridge is Liliana Fruck, and she joins us now, one of the key researchers behind all of this. It's an incredible breakthrough, Liliana. How does this work?
Good morning, and nice to be here to present this. Well, we know that there are changes in the tissue even before the cancer emerges, and we've been studying with our colleagues from Early Cancer Institute in Cambridge for a while cells that are emerging in the tissues before cancer. And we also managed to identify a protein that primes the whole environment before the emergence of cancer. And we could develop strategies to actually have a very relatively simple test which can be used in urine, where we could detect by eye if there are any changes in the tissue way before the cancer is formed.
Successfully tested on mice so far, hasn't it? When is it going to move to a human trial stage?
Well, we are now just trying to secure for the next stage of funding together with Cancer Research UK, and hopefully in a year we can go a little bit further and bring it to the patients as soon as possible.
Well, where does this leave you with treatment options? If you're detecting someone who is sort of in effect pre-cancerous, What options does that open up?
I mean, you are totally right. Detecting a disease early is nothing if you don't have therapeutic strategies. So there are actually companies and there are drugs in clinical trials that are being studied for this early signs of early cancer. So within a few years, we will definitely have therapies which will be able to deal with first signs of the cancer as well. So we are hoping that in parallel, we can develop diagnostic tools while our colleagues are working at the same time very hard on therapeutic strategies as well.
And does this open the door for other tests in order to discover early signs of other cancers as well?
Yes, there have been lots of efforts and lots of really excellent technological developments in the past year where we are able to find strategies which are, of course, more affordable that would be able to tell us about the diseases earlier. And this, of course, is something that we all really are eager to develop, but also we always talk to policymakers and funders as well to fund the work so that we can bring the strategies to patients faster.
I know we do always jump the gun on these sort of things and we get very excited, and we know actually the reality is it takes a number of years to get things up and running. However, I mean, are we heading for something within, I don't know, within our lifetime, maybe within the next decade or so, where actually a lot of cancers can just be routinely screened for, I mean, quite cheaply?
Yes, I mean, and you're totally right. We should never jump ahead of ourselves, as these are all the strategies that need to be tested and need to be validated. But considering all of the developments, both in medicine and chemistry and other technologies, we already have strategies in place where we can screen much better for certain types of cancer. And fortunately, we also have therapeutic strategies. And this keeps me really hopeful about the developments in the next 10 years, definitely. And we need to keep in mind, we have managed to turn some types of cancer into curable diseases or even chronic diseases. So I am very positive, and I really admire all of my colleagues working in the field as well for their dedication and really hard work.
Yeah, I can imagine. Liliana, it's absolutely fascinating to talk to you, and it's wonderful to see the work that you and your colleagues are doing. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today.
Thank you very much as well.
Thank you.
I just think it's amazing.
Well, it's hopeful news, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Boffins. You know, this, and if you've got kids or grandkids who need encouraging at school and things, you know, look at people like Professor Fruck there, because it's
incredible the work that they do.
Just what they can do, which ultimately could save millions upon millions of lives in the years to come.
Yeah.
If we get to a point where we are all just sort of giving samples once a year when you go to the GP and off it gets tested for who knows what, what an incredible world we will live in.
Game changer, isn't it? And lung cancer is one of the biggest killers in this country. So if you can have a simple, easy, cheap test that can detect it early, and we all know that detecting early leads to high rates of survival, doesn't it? So, I mean, that would be incredible, wouldn't it?
Brilliant.
Exciting new discovery. There you go, some happy news for you this morning.
Absolutely love it. I love stuff like that. I think it's incredible. Right, what we don't love is the weather, and it's not going to be a very nice weekend, I'm afraid. Let's get all the details from Honor.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into the weekend, Storm Dara is likely to bring some heavy rain and strong winds at times, with multiple Met Office warnings in force, and we're likely to see some disruption as we head into the weekend. To start off on Friday, though, it's almost the calm before the storm. Plenty of blue skies, lots of dry weather, just a few showers feeding in around coast of Scotland. But through into the afternoon, we will see a change as cloud spills in from the west, heavy outbreaks of rain around western coast and through into Northern Ireland. And we'll start to see some very gusty winds as we head into the afternoon too. Turning milder under that cloud and rain, but along eastern areas, another chilly day on offer. Now, as we head through into the evening, those heavy outbreaks of rain are going to continue to move their way eastwards, falling as snow mainly across high ground, across parts of Scotland, also around northern parts of England too. A largely dry end to the very far northeast of Scotland, but it won't be long before that rain starts to move in. Similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, heavy and blustery outbreaks of rain falling as snow at times once again across higher ground. And similar elsewhere across England and Wales, a very wet end to the day and turning increasingly blustery as we head into the evening too. Multiple wind warnings out around coastal areas and through into inland areas as well. Heavy outbreaks of rain sweeping their way across the country, still heavy at times overnight and still falling as snow mainly in northern areas too, and turning very blustery particularly around western coasts, and it is going to be a chilly night on offer, particularly in those very brisk winds. So a very unsettled start to the weekend. Once again, we'll see those outbreaks of rain sweep across the country, still heavy at times and still falling as snow across northern areas. But we're going to also see very strong winds, a risk of gales, if not severe gales at times, across Northern Ireland, western coasts of England and Wales too, where there is an amber warning in force. And it is going to feel particularly chilly in the brisk winds. Bye for now.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, it's time now for our biggest and greatest Great British giveaway and your chance to win £50,000 in tax-free cash. The biggest cash prize that we've ever given away, and it could all be yours. Here's how.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, best of luck to you on that one. 50,000 quid.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Just in time for the new year as well.
Very nice. Well, just after the new year.
Oh, just after. Well, what a way to start 2025.
Well,
then.
exactly. Well, that's beautifully changed.
Yes.
All right, we've got we've got all the sport with Paul in just a minute.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Buses replaced trains between Leeds and both Doncaster and Shipley because of flooding and overhead line problems. In Conway, the A5 is impassable because of flooding at Betsy Coed. In Cheshire, the A525 is closed each way because of a fallen tree along Moor Road at Chapel End. In Bedfordshire, the A5 is closed in both directions between Pottsgrove and Thorn because of an accident. On the M1 in Bedfordshire, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident between junctions 13 and 12 from Bedford to the Toddington and Flitwick turn, causing queues. In East Sussex, the A21 is closed each way between Watlington and Westfield because of a fallen tree that brought down power cables. Red funnel passenger vehicle sailings to and from the Isle of Wight between Southampton and East Cowes are suspended because of poor weather conditions. And in Devon, the A39 is impassable because of flooding near to Paracombe. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
A Tesco store on a Scottish island has defied locals by ignoring pleas to stay closed on Sundays.
Tesco's has said that no member of staff in Stornoway would be forced to work on a Sunday and that it had received a significant amount of positive reaction to its plans.
Well, let's talk now to the Minister of the Reformed Presbyterian Church, Reverend Kenneth Stewart. Good morning to you, Reverend Stewart. You're trying to keep Sunday special, and if Tesco are going to open up, that means it won't be quite as special for you.
Well, yes, good morning, and thanks for having me on. Yes, Tesco, for some reason, they claim it's not economic advantage, but for some reason they've decided to go against hundreds of years of tradition on this island and the deeply held religious convictions of many, many people, including, of course, their own customers who are really grieved by this decision. We come obviously from the standpoint that a day of rest is effectively mandatory. It's a human right, along with the other 10 commandments which have undergirded our moral and legal fabric in society. It actually enshrines the human right to a day of rest. And of course, in the UK, that's been eroded for many, many years. Incidentally, it's still far more respected on the continent. But for us here, the Sabbath or the day of rest has been very, very important. It's not just what we do, it's who we are. And for some reason, Tesco have decided just to go against that.
And Reverend Stewart, we were actually talking about this earlier, how in European countries, I mean, even in France, which is a secular country, still very few shops will open on a Sunday.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. It's 6:31. It's sports time, and Paul Coit is here with us. Morning.
I'm not going to let any game affect me.
You're upset this morning, aren't you? Yeah.
Yes, I'm fine. I'm absolutely
You did
fine.
very well last night, did you?
Bournemouth 1, Spurs 0.
Ouch.
Sounds closer than it actually was, to be honest with you.
Was it pretty bad?
It was not a good performance by Tottenham Hotspur, I've got to say. Bournemouth could have had 5 or 6. Really? Probably. I'm probably being generous to Spurs as well. They were just going no passing. It's Spurs. This is the way their last few games have gone. Lost. Tell me if this sounds inconsistent to you. Lost 1, lost 1, lost 1, drew, and then lost. You never know what you're going to get.
You had a great win a few weeks ago.
Yes. You know what I've noticed, though, Ellie?
I'll cling on to that.
Is that you're now saying, what often you say is that we did quite well, and now you're back to going, you. And I can see what you're doing.
I can't decide.
No. I don't think you've... But anyway, lost 6 out of 14 Premier League games. Ange Postecoglou. See, now it seems with a lot of Spurs fans that the jury may be a little out with Ange. Plays a very exciting brand of football, which is very important. You know, and it's, after all, it is entertainment, but the results haven't been going so well. So as he walked over to the fans, there was a little barracking that came from some Spurs fans. And anyway, this is what he had to say about it.
They gave me some direct feedback, which I guess is taken on board.
What was the direct feedback?
Yeah, probably not for you, mate. Yeah, look, I guess so. Look, I got no issue with it. Like I said, you know, didn't like what was being said because I'm a human being, but you know, you've got to cop it, and I've been around long enough to know that when things don't go well, that, you know, you've got to understand the frustration, the disappointment, and they're rightly disappointed tonight because, you know, again, we've let a game of football get away from us, but that's okay. I'm okay with all that.
Hats off to him, I think, for that. So, yeah, I got some direct feedback.
Direct feedback
is one way of putting it. But at least he's taking notice.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a very difficult thing to do. And when I've spoken to managers before, and they've just said, look, you just wouldn't believe the pressure and how hard this is, because 1 minute, you know, you're the cock of the walk. Everything's going very well. The next minute, you could have a couple of losses, the fans turn against you. And especially with social media as it is these days, it's just such a difficult thing to be able to do. But anyway, Spurs are playing Chelsea at home on Sunday. Chelsea are looking very good. But again, you don't know how things at Spurs could go and win, could go and lose. Honestly, you just don't know. But it wasn't good last night. Fulham, though, I think Brighton were unlucky not to get anything from Craven Cottage yesterday. But Fulham, who are looking really good, they've now got up to 6th in the Premier League. Wow. So a fantastic time for them. They beat Brighton 3-1 yesterday.
Right, where are we on the World Cup draw, the Club World Cup draw?
Right, this happened in Miami yesterday. Now, the Club World Cup, it's set up by FIFA and Gianni Infantino because this is going to be, I think, he wanted to be his legacy. This is his thing. And it's Club World Cup. So it takes place USA next summer, 15th to the 13th, or 15th of July, 13th of August. 32 teams. Every 4 years it'll happen from 6 different confederations. There's Infantino. Loving it there. 12 European clubs, 2 of them English. So there's Chelsea and Manchester City. So they made the draw yesterday. You know who's making the draw? Gloria Estefan.
Really?
Yes. Because I think she's probably the most famous person in Miami, apart from maybe Don Johnson.
I was just going to say Don Johnson.
So you got your Don Johnson and Philip Michael Thomas. Was he the other one? Crockett and Tubbs?
Oh, yes.
In Miami Vice?
Yes.
And so then...
It gets a bit forgotten, doesn't it?
It does, whereas Gloria Estefan is for everyone at all times. Can we see Gloria there making the draw? It was good to see Gloria doing that.
She doesn't know what soccer is, does she?
Soccer, I think so. Well, you know, Anyway, look, this was the draw that Manchester City drew. They're going to play Juventus. There we are, there's Gloria, look.
I wouldn't have recognised her.
No, really? It's because she's not dancing around in leather trousers. From Morocco, and Al Ain from Saudi Arabia. That's who Manchester City have got. I just think, honestly, nobody's really interested in it, apart from Chelsea, Man City fans. I don't know whether they are. Flamengo in Brazil. This is Chelsea have got Club Leon from Mexico and Esperance Sportive de Tunis.
Oh, from Tunisia.
Very good, yeah. So that's who Chelsea have got. So it's in the summer, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I can't see people getting excited about it.
Quite shocking allegations from George Russell.
Oh, yeah, this F1 thing.
Yeah.
Which is really kicking off. Yeah. George Russell, the Brit against Max Verstappen. So Max Verstappen, at the last Grand Prix at Qatar, cut a long story short, George Russell was complaining about the way that Verstappen was driving, and he went into the stewards and said, this is not right. Verstappen was very unhappy about it. He said he'd lost all respect for Russell. And then George Russell, there's been a press conference yesterday, said, I don't know why he felt the need for the personal attack. I'm not going to take it. He threatened to put my head in the wall, and there's an expletive in there as well. And it's really kicking off between the two of them. So
exciting.
I find it quite exciting, to be honest with you. Yeah. It's when you get situations in sport and people go, this is not good, this shouldn't happen. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Why not? I mean, it has been a bit... Motorsport has been a bit dull for a while. It sparks it up a bit.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not saying it's exciting to put his head in a wall, but the fact that there's a little war of words...
Argy-bargy.
It does, little argy-bargy, yeah.
But the rest of us have to just cope with a bit of running, a bit of jogging.
This is great. You're going to like this. There's a fellow called Duncan McCabe because, as you know, this is not just the sports section, it's sports and pastimes that I like to do. So Strava, for those that are into fitness, I don't even want to show this yet. Hold on. Let's not go with that yet. Let me give it an explanation. Strava maps your runs. Yeah. So when you do a run and then you see it on there, there's a guy called Duncan McCabe. He's run nearly 700 miles. The reason he's done this, it's for Strava Art. It's taken him 10 months. So what he's done, he's mapped each run and then make it... Now have a look at this. Now it'll make some sense. Now, look, these are all these runs put together. And if you see, it's like a stick man. Look at that.
Waving his arms about.
See, that's it. And it's like each day, morning run, afternoon run. So he does a different run. And then...
Oh, and it's walking.
Do you see what I mean? So each run is mapped... And this is the culmination of all of them together. So he's actually made the art out of his runs.
So it's like a flip chart.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Yeah. So each one, I mean, it's really clever. So he's thinking, I'll run up here. The next one, I'll run in that circle. So then we've got to keep that. And then I've got to run in this direction for the next day. So it looks like the man is actually running.
Wow, that's very, very clever.
Look at tipping his hat, isn't that clever?
Very clever. Imagine the planning that's gone into that.
I know.
So, a lot of planning.
Nearly 700 miles.
Is he a Brit, this fella?
No, he's in Canada. He did it in Canada. 10 months it took.
Nothing else to do in Canada, have they?
I did one run in 10 months. I've just got, like, one line. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, well, good on him.
Matchstick. No, I really like it.
No, very clever. Clever young man.
So much so, I'm going to play it again and again.
Yeah, quite right. Which means if you're listening on the radio, you've got time to tune into the app or the TV and actually have a look at it, because it is really impressive.
Yep.
Actually, it's clever.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Thanks, Coity. Do stay with us. We're going to be going through the papers next with Norman Baker and Theo Usherwood.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This week is Chocolate Week, the ultimate celebration of everything rich, sweet and indulgent.
Yes, and we now have the best person in the studio with us to satisfy all of your chocolate cravings. We're joined now by master chocolatier Ollie the Choc. Ollie,
hello.
really
Hey,
good
Ollie.
to see you this
Thank you
morning.
for having me.
And you brought some of your chocolate in with you.
I did. I brought some tasting samples. You're very welcome to help yourself.
So what have you got here? Tell us.
So this is my signature chocolate. I call it the Holy Grail. It's got sea salt flakes, crushed Oreo, caramel fudge pieces, very Moorish.
I love a caramel and salt combo, just, you know. I feel like you see it everywhere now. Look.
You won't be disappointed.
Look, I want everyone to see a close-up of this one. Can we get a shot on this one? So this is Oreo, there we are, caramel and salt. Do you want to try some?
You go first. Help yourselves. And then this bar of chocolate is a little bit of a wild card. That's a mystery flavour, so...
OK, I love a mystery.
I'm not going to tell you what that is.
Hold on this one. This one's amazing.
Are you?
Oreo, caramel.
That's my biggest seller.
I'll keep my palate clean for this. So this is a mystery flavour.
You've got to guess what that is.
Is that a nut in there, I see? Right, here we go. Ready?
I'm not saying anything.
Talk us through.
Very crunchy.
For me, I'm all about textures in chocolate.
Me too.
It has got a good crunch to it, hasn't it? It's not the kind of flavour that you would expect.
Oh, I can't get it.
Is it sweet? Is it salty?
Wait, no, it's salty, yeah.
It's
okay.
salty.
Hang on, bit more.
Okay.
Bit more.
I mean, just keep going.
Crisps? Wait,
It is crispy, it's crunchy. Could it be crisps?
I think it could be crisps. Yeah, it's crisps.
So what flavour?
Salt and vinegar. Cheese and onion.
Yes,
Salt
nailed
and
it. You know.
Oh, you're much better than me.
Love that.
Do you know what? I think I've got a bit of a cold, so my taste buds are
Oh, you're going to blame that, are you?
That's my excuse. That's delicious.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 6:43. Time to see what's in the papers this morning with Norman Baker and Theo Usherwood. Good to see you both this morning. Let's start with a bit of politics in the Express, Theo. You can't keep ignoring the biggest problem, Sakir.
Well, he's not going to mention, well, he did mention immigration, but he's not going to give himself a target which he'll then fail. And of course, he launched his 6 milestones yesterday, Sakir Starmer, and he didn't put in a target when it came to reducing immigration. We've got legal migration, net migration now north of 700,000, 20,000 illegal migrants have crossed the English Channel since Sakir Starmer became Prime Minister. But we know the dangers. Rishi Sunak, the former Conservative Prime Minister, can attest to the dangers of setting a target. He had a promise to stop the boats. Actually, the Rwanda policy was quite successful in reducing the number of small boat crossings.
Well, even though it didn't launch.
Even though it didn't launch, just the deterrent was actually quite successful. The numbers came down from 45,000 to the end of 22 to 29,000, and reducing it by a third. But of course, because he didn't fulfil the promise of stopping the boats, you could still go to Dover and see migrants arriving every day on those small boats, then to be processed and to be housed in hotels at an expense of more than £8 million a day it is now. That promise came back to bite the Conservatives in the election, and Keir Starmer doesn't want to make that same mistake.
Why hasn't that lesson been learned by Sir Keir Starmer then?
Well, the lesson he needs to learn is it's pointless setting these
abstract targets. And we've got 7 pillars, 6 milestones, 5 missions, 3 foundations, and a partridge in a pear tree. And actually, this is just bad politics. Whatever you think about it, it's bad politics, because if the targets are met, no one remembers them. And if the targets aren't met, as Rishi Sunak's weren't met, then he gets blamed for them. So he should just get on and govern the country. That's what he's got a mandate for from the election, rather than setting these abstract targets.
Why are they doing it? I mean, it's clearly a PR exercise.
Yeah, it's a bad PR exercise. You know, the reality is Keir Starmer's not a very good politician. He's not skilled at how to handle the job, I'm afraid.
But
he's a bureaucrat.
Him.
Well, indeed. Well, I mean, number 10 unit is hardly very efficient. We've already lost Sue Gray after that big row internally with number 10. I mean, the first 5 months have not been a success for Keir Starmer. I don't say that with any glee. I mean, I wish the guy well, but I mean, he's not handling it very well.
OK, Norman, looking at the mirror, I mean, hospitals always have a tough time.
Yes.
Over winter, of course. But apparently there are 4 viruses we've got to be looking out for.
Yeah, this is a rather laboured headline, I have to say, in the mirror. We're for it now. It's not a great headline. But they've identified a quademic on its way, just to make you feel cheery in this winter season. And they are influenza, norovirus, COVID-19, and something called RSV, which is respiratory syncytial virus. And they're all going to be filling up our hospital wards with people. The number of people in hospital beds with flu has gone from 243 last week to 1099. But I mean, you know, every winter we get more people in hospital.
We do. The deaths. There's been quite a number of deaths from flu this year already, hasn't there?
Yeah. But just to the point, you know, we've had this huge health drive from the NHS, and we're hearing about junk food, bans on advertising, and so forth when it comes to, you know, dealing with obesity, particularly childhood obesity. But where has the drive been on getting your flu vaccination? I've missed it. Maybe others haven't. Maybe your viewers are well on top of it. But I just think that actually government needs to be much more fleet of foot in actually putting out the messages there, because we're looking at a 4-fold increase in hospital admissions. Is that correct?
But they only push it for those people eligible.
But obviously it's affecting more people, because people aren't getting vaccinated from getting the necessary vaccinations, and as a result are ending up in hospital, taking up beds, taking up huge amounts of resource. So I just think the government needs to be much more, you know, looking at this story, actually needs to be much more, you know, fleet of foot and actually dealing with the issues, and not just, you know, there are obviously more issues than just obesity and major heart disease and so forth.
I'll tell you what worries me is the norovirus thing.
Yeah.
Because that's what people... I mean, actually, I've got an uncle in hospital at the moment who's just this week had norovirus, which has then delayed an operation, and because that's what you're catching when you're actually in.
Well, this is the point. You actually want to avoid going to hospital if you possibly can, because they are full of people who are ill with germs and bacteria which are spread around the place. So it's not a very healthy place to be. So prevention, Theo is right. Prevention is better than cure in this situation. It's also cheaper for the NHS and it's better for the individual. You know, it's a failure of society in a sense if too many people end up in hospital.
Yeah. Theo, let's have a look at the eye, shall we? Political parties will now have to justify peerages.
Yes, so political parties are now going to have to write a 150-word citation to accompany every peerage that they wish to bestow, and that is going to be seen as a way of political parties having to justify exactly why they want to put somebody into the House of Lords, and it's meant to, of course, increase accountability, restore faith in politics, that the House of Lords doesn't just become a place where you can, hand out. You know, it's £300 a day you get for attending the House of Lords, providing you make it
tax-free,
providing you make it
subsidised food and drink,
providing you make it past lunchtime, so you don't have to do a full day's work. As part of this plan from Keir Starmer and Labour to restore trust in politics, this is something we've known about for a while. They want to ensure that political parties can't just put people into the House of Lords who don't necessarily deserve to be there.
But you can... But the issue with this, I don't know what you make of it, Norman, but knocking out 150 words in a citation is nothing. I could knock out 10 of those an hour.
Well, look, I mean, let's say someone gives £1 million to the Conservative Party or the Labour Party, whoever it happens to be, and they end up with a very good chance of being in the House of Lords, because actually there's a very close correlation between donation to parties and appearance in the House of Lords. That's down as apparently public service. That's how it's described, as public service. So, 150 words saying it's going to be public service. Look, I mean, we need to end this cronyism in the House of Lords. I'm in favour of either a fully elected or mostly elected House of Lords, so people can actually vote for who they want to vote for.
Would people be bothered? I mean, people never... When we were in the European Parliament, not that many people turned out to vote for an MEP. I mean,
well, they voted on the basis of national issues, of course, for that, and they would do in the House of Lords.
Would people... Yeah, which...
But it depends what the House of Lords does.
Shouldn't the House of Lords be filled with experts?
Well, that's why there's an argument for having 80-20, for having 80% elected, so it's got some electoral mandate and accountability, and 20% full of experts who were there, who would never stand for election. So you could have a House that works better. I think we need a second chamber, because you need a chamber to revise legislation coming from the Commons. But we don't need to have a whole lot of former politicians or donors who've given a whole lot of money to political parties, which is what we have now.
But the House of Lords, you're often dealing with very complex pieces of legislation. And just to your point, Steve, I'm going to stick up for some of those peers in the House of Lords on this. You can go into the House of Lords on a Friday, or as I often did when I was covering Parliament more closely, and you can listen to a debate. And you'll often listen to a much higher standard debate in the House of Lords, because you have individuals talking about particular areas of interest that they are experts in, whether it's Lord Winston on genetics, or I listened to Baroness Shackleton, who on the changes to family law. She's an expert divorce barrister. You can listen to the very best experts speaking about and scrutinising government legislation, and you are not going to get those experts in the House of Lords if you turn it into an elected chamber. And I just think this could be quite easily solved if political parties were just a little bit more mindful about the value of the House of Lords, about the value that the House of Lords can actually bring to the country in making better legislation, or helping governments to make better legislation, rather than just stuffing it full of their quotas as a reward. Give them a peerage. If you want to give somebody a reward, make them a Sir or a Dame, but don't just put them in the House of Lords, because the House of Lords has a value, but political parties don't want to do that.
Well, that's why an 80-20 arrangement would actually keep some of those people, if you got the right people in there. But, for all those people who make viable contributions, and I agree with you, Theo, they do make contributions. There are 5-10 times as many who don't do anything at all. Lady Falkender, for example, who was Harold Wilson's private secretary, remember her with the lavender letters and everything else? She was the longest-serving Labour peer in the House of Lords. She never spoke once. In decades, she never spoke once. And the House of Lords is full of people who use it as a kind of nice place to take people to have a cup of coffee. Never actually speak, never do anything. But they got themselves in there because they give £1 million to somebody.
Yeah. Well, no, I think you both make really valid points, but, it shouldn't be full of people who aren't doing anything. So, it should be people who are experts who can actually, as you say, go through legislation in a very detailed and specific way. It's what they're meant to be doing.
Norman, not good news, is it, in terms of our weather? Storm Dara set to wreak havoc.
Yes, this is another laboured headline, this time in the Star. 557-mile mega storm today. 557 miles, that's the width, apparently, of the Atlantic mega storm, which is due today. I have to say, I've just come down from Aberdeen yesterday, having watched Aberdeen play Celtic in the most appalling conditions in Aberdeen. And I felt like it was at the end of the weather up there, I have to say, in the last couple of days. But we are faced, apparently, with this mega storm, which is going to hit the whole country, as it says here in the Star, from the Isle of Skye down to Sussex, starting today and running through to Sunday. So there we are. That's not very good news, is it?
No, that's totally depressing. You just don't want to go out at the moment, do you? So do not want to leave the house.
Well, it's off the back of another one. I mean, these storms, the Bert, which caused havoc.
And then Connell and Dara.
And nothing. When you have these things, nothing seems to work.
No.
It should be Stormy Daniels, shouldn't it?
Very good.
Well, you never know. Maybe next time. All right, thank you both very much indeed.
You.
Just a reminder, we're talking to music legend Carol Decker just after 8. But now, time for your weather with Honour.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into the weekend, Storm Dara is likely to bring some heavy rain and strong winds at times, with multiple Met Office warnings in force, and we're likely to see some disruption as we head into the weekend. To start off on Friday, though, it's almost the calm before the storm. Plenty of blue skies, lots of dry weather, just a few showers feeding in around coast of Scotland. But through into the afternoon, we will see a change as cloud spills in from the west, heavy outbreaks of rain around western coast and through into Northern Ireland. And we'll start to see some very gusty winds as we head into the afternoon too. Turning milder under that cloud and rain, but along eastern areas, another chilly day on offer. Now, as we head through into the evening, those heavy outbreaks of rain are going to continue to move their way eastwards, falling as snow mainly across high ground, across parts of Scotland, also around northern parts of England too. A largely dry end to the very far northeast of Scotland, but it won't be long before that rain starts to move in. Similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, heavy and blustery outbreaks of rain falling as snow at times once again across higher ground. And similar elsewhere across England and Wales, a very wet end to the day and turning increasingly blustery as we head into the evening too. Multiple wind warnings out around coastal areas and through into inland areas as well. Heavy outbreaks of rain sweeping their way across the country. Still heavy at times overnight and still falling as snow mainly in northern areas too, and turning very blustery, particularly around western coasts. And it is going to be a chilly night on offer, particularly in those very brisk winds. So a very unsettled start to the weekend. Once again, we'll see those outbreaks of rain sweep across the country. Still heavy at times and still falling as snow across northern areas. But we're going to also see very strong winds, a risk of gales, if not severe gales at times, across Northern Ireland, western coasts of England and Wales too, where there is an amber warning in force. And it is going to feel particularly chilly in the brisk winds. Bye for now.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Buses replaced trains between Leeds and both Doncaster and Shipley because of flooding and because of overhead line problems. In Conway, the A5 is impassable because of flooding between Petticoed and Pentravoilus. In Cheshire, the A525 is closed each way because of a fallen tree along War Road at Chapel End. On the M1 in Bedfordshire, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident between junctions 13 and 12 south of Bedford. It's taking around 20 minutes in queues for around 3.5 miles. Also in Bedfordshire, the A5 is closed each way north of the A505 through Hotcliffe after an accident. In East Sussex, the A21 is closed because of a fallen tree that's brought down power cables between Watlington and Westfield. In Devon, the A39 is impassable because of flooding at Paracombe, and hover travel sailings to and from the Isle of Wight are suspended between Southsea and Ryde because of a technical problem. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For your chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day.
bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The Prime Minister faces a backlash after setting out 6 key milestones.
Sir Keir Starmer is accused of watering down 2 of his key election pledges amid signs the economy is struggling in the wake of the budget.
Well, in his speech, he also promised to take on NIMBYs who are holding major projects to ransom, as he says, ushers in a new era.
I expect to be judged on my ability to deal with it. And the work of change has begun.
France in crisis. Emmanuel Macron vows to stay on as president. It's after his government is toppled following a no-confidence vote.
There's a breakthrough in lung cancer treatment. Scientists create a urine test which can detect the first signs of the disease.
A new poll reveals voters believe the UK should prioritise its relationship with Europe over the US. We're asking this morning, are they right?
Today marks My Turkey Day, believe it or not, where Britain celebrates homegrown turkeys ahead of Christmas. Our reporter Will Hollis will be on a farm in Lincolnshire. I don't know if you grow turkeys.
No, I don't think you do.
Planting one would be interesting.
Are you dreaming of a white Christmas? Well, music legend Carol Decker will be with us a little bit later on, about 8:30, tell us all about her new Christmas single.
Well, here I am, GB's own homegrown turkey, and in the sport, Spurs have a bad night on the south coast as Bournemouth leapfrog them in the Premier League. Fulham move up to 6th after beating Brighton, and George Russell really doesn't like Max Verstappen very much, and it seems that the feeling's mutual.
Hello there. Many of us will be waking up to blue skies this morning, but Storm Dara is on its way, bringing heavy outbreaks of rain and strong winds. I'll be here with all the details.
Just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Lots of you getting in touch on Sadiq Khan looking like he's going to get a knighthood in the New Year's honours. It's been leaked. So whether it's actually going to happen or not, or whether they'd withdraw it because it's been leaked. But apparently that's going to happen. And no one seems very happy with it. It is our poll of the day today, if you go to gbnews.com/poll. So you can have your say, but a lot of people are not happy with that one.
No. I'll tell you what else people aren't happy about.
What's that?
Festive food. Can
Really?
lead to you going bald.
What?
This is according to the Daily Star.
Must be true.
This morning, so it must be true. Yes, apparently 1 in 4 men in the UK are bald or balding, and those who have yet to become full slapheads, says the Daily Star, are now being warned that festive fun, like excess sugar, booze and late nights, can actually speed up the balding process. So you need to be very, very careful about all of the late nights.
What about getting up at a ridiculous hour of the morning?
I'm sure that's not good either. But festive feasting and a high-sugar diet is one of the worst things you can do and can lead to weakened hair strands and hair loss.
Oh.
You two are fine. You've both got good heads of hair.
Oh, yes, I have.
You have to have it rearranged.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the key to it these days, gents.
It
if
is
you're
the
panicking,
key to it.
Go and get it rearranged.
Yes.
It's very good.
It is very good. Yes. So I hear.
Me.
I'm glad there's nothing from behind there that shows. It's just like, yeah.
No, at least there is a solution. A lot of men hate going bald. A lot of women say they like a baldy,
No.
don't they? Because it's a sign of testosterone.
Oh, don't say that,
A lot
Ellie.
say they don't. No,
Right.
I like a full head of hair.
Right.
Look at Patrick Stewart in Star Trek.
What a handsome man he is.
Oh, there you go.
What about Yul Brynner in The King and I?
Yeah. There you go, it works. A lot of ladies like it, so not,
Or
not
who's
to
the
knock
one?
it.
Who's the one married to Rosie Huntington-Whiteley?
Jason Statham.
Jason Statham.
Yeah.
Who's Rosie Huntington-Whiteley?
Model.
Oh.
She was M&S.
I don't know anybody these days. Is that a sign of getting old? All these
You know
stars. And when you go through the papers, it's all they go to the celeb section. I don't know who anybody is.
Well, I did go with Yul Brynner. He's a young actor, isn't he?
He's only been dead for 60 years.
I know, yeah. But The King and I is an evergreen movie.
That's
It is
a
for
great
everyone at
film.
all times.
Very
Yeah.
good.
There you go. Always finger on the pulse, Paul Coit. Right, let's head on to our main news today. Labour pledging to tackle NIMBYism and launch a golden age of house building.
Yes, it's just part of Sir Keir Starmer's 6 milestones announced yesterday that he says voters can use to judge him against by the next election.
We'll have a listen to this.
Higher living standards in every region of the country. Britain rebuilt with 1.5 million new homes, safer streets, more police on the beat, the best start in life for every child, with a record proportion of 5-year-olds starting school ready to learn, clean power by 2030, homegrown British energy, waiting lists in our NHS cut.
What have you got? Oh, look, it's got your name.
With criticism, with warnings that his pledge to build 1.5 million homes by the end of Parliament could be unattainable.
It's about 5,500 a day, apparently.
Yes, and they can't start building at speed until 2027, the government has admitted.
Well, the Prime Minister's also faced criticism for not outlining any new targets on that little thing called migration, which one or two people are a bit concerned about.
Well, joining us now in the studio is Deputy Political Editor of The Mail on Sunday, Anna Mikalova. Good to see you, Anna. And there was a glaring omission, wasn't there, with no mention of migration, really, yesterday?
Yes, I mean, you could say he's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't. If he'd set a target, he probably would have been criticised, and he probably would have set himself the same trap that Rishi Sunak did when Sunak promised to stop the boats, and obviously then very much did not stop the boats. Starmer referenced that, in fact, in the speech as a mistake and something he didn't want to do. But the problem is, like you say, by not including it in the milestones, it looks like it's not a priority, doesn't it? And for so many people in this country, it is a huge, huge concern. We've just had an absolutely appalling revision of the previous year's statistics that legal migration was almost 1 million. You've had, since Labour came into government, more than 20,000 people come over on small boats. And I think if you're making a speech like that in the current climate, to not mention it and to then bat away questions about it and almost look annoyed that journalists are asking about it repeatedly is it's just odd.
I wonder if we need, sort of getting to the heart of the matter with it all. And I was just intrigued by Norman Baker in the papers earlier on, because obviously former minister and, he's a man who knows his stuff, whether you agree with him politically or not, who said, well, Keir Starmer's just not really a very good politician. Which seems remarkable. I mean, it's remarkable. The man's Prime Minister now.
He's obviously he is obviously been able to be able to get to that top job. He has political skills. He has a certain ruthlessness that allowed him to very successfully reform his party and take it away from Corbynism quite quickly, quicker than anyone expected. But in terms of having the nous and that instinct for just bread and butter politics, in the way that Tony Blair did, in the way that John Prescott recently, obviously everyone was reminded how he did. He doesn't have that. He's much more of a technocrat. I think Starmer himself talks about that, really. He likes to say that he's not really from any political, you can't really politically define him as easily. But this does feel like a mistake. I don't understand why they've done it, to be honest. I mean, it's 5 months in. You had party conference, which is the moment to do this sort of speech, if you're going to do it at all. And instead, it's almost like they've decided that the public really wants to hear more politicians talking about promises. We've just had an election campaign full of promises. I think the public wants to see some change. They want to see hospitals actually working and serving them, but they want to see their living standards actually improve, as opposed to a Prime Minister tell them, we'll be able to tell you when your living standards improve because of this new milestone. Well, no, people will actually feel it if that happens.
One of the most striking things in the speech yesterday was really the Prime Minister admitting how difficult it is to govern and how he just seems to be realising that, talking about the civil service, talking about the difficulties within Whitehall, saying that too many civil servants were comfortable in the tepid bath of managed decline. I mean, without galvanising Whitehall, they can't deliver any of this, can they?
No, and don't forget, his big hire to be able to specifically deliver on his priorities and kick Whitehall into action was Sue Gray. and we all know how that panned out. So I think there is definitely, when you speak to people in the government, when you speak to the advisors and the people around ministers, of course, they are realising it's a very, very hard job. I mean, it's a sort of cliche to say, but after 14 years in opposition, you come in and any change of government like that, people are going to have a shock, not knowing exactly how to kick the civil service into action. And it is, I mean, that was actually the most political part of the speech when he said, essentially launched quite a big attack on the civil service. The question is, what next? How are they going to actually reform it? Because he's essentially suggesting he's going to knock down their walls, or whatever the quote was. So let's see what the detail is.
The problem with all of this is, and I don't want to sound too, because what we don't want to do on this show is, despite what you might want to hope, is to get party political. You know, that isn't our job on this programme. But it's just very different. There is no hope here. There's no optimism. There doesn't seem to be any drive. It's all very bland words and nothing much happening.
Yeah, I mean, as Quentin Led's sketch in the Mail today points out, that it was all political nerd speak and all introduced by quite not exactly upbeat speeches. Even Angela Rayner, who normally is a very good speaker, was pretty downbeat, didn't really raise the room, even though it was all in Pinewood Studios, sort of a very... Keir Starmer did make a joke about possibly being James Bond at the beginning, which you can imagine got everyone laughing away. No, it's just an odd thing to do, I think. And it almost reminds people that politicians, that, you know, it's what annoys people about politicians, that it's a lot of words and it's a lot of political speak and Westminster speak. And he was trying to break the fourth wall on that. He was trying to sort of say, I'm different to this, but actually it ends up sort of being the same.
And all the while, reform nipping at their heels.
Well, I mean, Nigel Farage almost instantly was out yesterday saying, why wasn't migration mentioned? And that will resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, it will. All right, lovely. Anna, it's really good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed. I'm sure you've got some thoughts on that one this morning. Why not? Do you understand why he didn't mention migration? As Anna was saying, if you set yourself a target for that, well, are you setting yourself up to fail? It doesn't give you any confidence that he's not mentioned it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, because journalists were asking him that yesterday, weren't they? And he was saying he didn't want to put an arbitrary figure on it. But then you put arbitrary figures on housing.
Yeah.
And you put arbitrary figures on the NHS, but you wouldn't do it for what many people would say is one of the biggest issues facing this country. Just a funny decision to make.
It's very odd, isn't it? But it's almost like they're not thinking through how everything is going to be. Oh, this will be a great idea. Let's just announce this and it'll keep everybody happy. And they're not thinking through what people are actually going to say.
But do you need to hold the electorate's hand, though, and say, this is what we're doing next, these are our 5 missions, this is what... Because that's what Rishi Sunak did, and it didn't go down very well for him in the end.
But if they've got to get on with it.
Yeah, people would rather see action, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but we're not seeing action, are we? So maybe this is what you get as a result, where people tell you what they're going to do because nothing actually seems to be happening at the moment.
But it doesn't sink down, does it?
No.
If it's just words. Anyway, let us know what you think. gbnews.com/you'll say.
Now let's go to the other side of the pond, where things are actually even worse than they are over here, because the French President Emmanuel Macron is battling calls to resign after his government was toppled following a vote of no confidence.
Yes, the French Prime Minister Michel Barnier stood down after he faced backlash over his unpopular budget.
In an address last night to the French public, he said, the mandate you've given me for 5 years is for 5 years, this is the president, I should say, and I will exercise it until the very end.
Well, joining us live from Paris now is former French diplomat Francois-Joseph Chichan. Good to see you this morning, Francois. Interesting, isn't it? Because you get this air of calm from Emmanuel Macron, saying nothing to see here, but there are calls for him to resign, and he is very much in the firing line.
Yes, absolutely. I expect pressure to build on him in the next few weeks and months. But actually, I think he's in a pretty safe position. You know, the consequence of Barnier's resignation in the past couple of days is that Macron is sort of back having the initiative, is back in control would be too strong a word, but at least he is the one who is going to appoint the next prime minister. So that is the responsibility, and he can choose. He has only a few options, but that kind of taking him back into the driving seat at least for a few days. And also, I think he still has some cards in his hand to play before the pressure will be too high on him to resign. What I would say is if this sequence of resignation of governments, of prime ministers, continue in the next few months, then the pressure will definitely increase on him. But so far, he's pretty safe. And I think his address last night was very calm and trying to be seen as an element of stability in this very fragmented, troubled French political landscape that we are seeing. Initially, I think it's fair to say the crisis really started with him, because the origin of what we are seeing today is the election that he called, the snap election that he called in June, July, and that backfired completely.
But, I mean, you talk about stability, Francois-Joseph, but the problem here is going to be, isn't it, that there isn't going to be any stability if there can't be another election for members of the French Parliament till, June next year at the earliest. And so you're going to just end up with these coalitions that could keep getting constantly broken for the best part of a year.
Yes, absolutely. That's so. When I say stability, it's more about the president himself. He doesn't have to face any election anytime soon. But when it comes to the government, yes, there will be instability. The government is the next government, wherever it comes from, whoever is the prime minister, they will struggle to get anything done. And I think this is why it's very, very, very likely that we have another election in the summer next year. I mean, the only thing that can solve this deadlock is a general election. And, in many ways, this situation reminds me a little bit the situation in the UK back in 2018, 2019, where the situation in Parliament was completely deadlocked because of Brexit. So it's a different issue in France. Obviously, it's linked to the budget. But there is a similar kind of vibe of parliamentary deadlock and no clear solution, you see. And this eventually in the UK was resolved by the election. And I believe that this is the same that needs to happen in France at some point.
What does all of this mean for Marine Le Pen?
So Le Pen, I think she's in a stronger position than ever. There was a very interesting poll yesterday in the asking French people, who is responsible for the current crisis, and overwhelming majority of people said it's Macron, it's not Le Pen, despite Le Pen being instrumental in bringing down Barnier's government. So she's kind of exiting this sequence in a stronger position than before. And I think that what she, at the heart of her decision to bring down Barnier's government, lies also the fact that she felt that her electorate, so 11 million people voted for her at the last general election back in June, her electorate was not considered by Barnier's government, by his ministers, by the establishment, to put it simply. And I think this is something that she wants to change. She wants to demonstrate that her party is now a political force to reckon with. And 3 years ago, she had 3 MPs in Parliament. Today, she has 124. So the acceleration of the rise of her party is very, very fast. But it's not reflected in the way Parliament works, in the way the government is considering the issues that her electorate are concerned about. And in effect, I think one good example of that is, for example, when this new Parliament started back in July, most MPs refused to even shake the hands of MPs from a political party. So that tells you something about the fact that you've got 11 million people here who are basically being a little bit put on the sideline, and she knows they are behind her, and this is why she's being so forceful when it comes to fighting Barnier and Macron at the same time, because that's also her target.
OK. Francois-Joseph, good to see you, good to get your analysis. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
You can't ignore the electorate.
No.
Just because you don't agree with them.
And it is interesting because it's not just France that this affects, is it? I mean, we're in a time of global instability. When France is weakened, and Germany's not looking too good either, it does have impacts across the EU and across the world as well. So let us know what you think. gbnews.com/you'll say. And no quick fix either. It'll be next summer.
No, it's going to be a mess in France for, best part of a year, isn't it? I mean, it really is.
Yeah, and you've got world leaders descending on Paris this weekend, haven't you?
Yeah, for the opening of Notre Dame, including Trump, apparently.
So Emmanuel Macron's going to have to put on a brave face.
It's interesting. Trump's up and running even before he's president again.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, the way he's doing it.
It's true.
Right, so let's see what the weather's going to do for you. It's not nice, I'm afraid. Here's Honor.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into the weekend, Storm Dara is likely to bring some heavy rain and strong winds at times, with multiple Met Office warnings in force, and we're likely to see some disruption as we head into the weekend. To start off on Friday, though, it's almost the calm before the storm. Plenty of blue skies, lots of dry weather, just a few showers feeding in around coast of Scotland. But through into the afternoon, we will see a change as cloud spills in from the west, heavy outbreaks of rain around western coast and through into Northern Ireland. And we'll start to see some very gusty winds as we head into the afternoon too. Turning milder under that cloud and rain, but along eastern areas, another chilly day on offer. Now, as we head through into the evening, those heavy outbreaks of rain are going to continue to move their way eastwards, falling as snow mainly across high ground, across parts of Scotland, also around northern parts of England too. A largely dry end to the very far northeast of Scotland, but it won't be long before that rain starts to move in. Similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, heavy and blustery outbreaks of rain, falling as snow at times once again across higher ground. And similar elsewhere across England and Wales, a very wet end to the day and turning increasingly blustery as we head into the evening too. Multiple wind warnings out around coastal areas and through into inland areas as well. Heavy outbreaks of rain sweeping their way across the country. Still heavy at times overnight and still falling as snow mainly in northern areas too, and turning very blustery, particularly around western coasts. And it is going to be a chilly night on offer, particularly in those very brisk winds. So a very unsettled start to the weekend. Once again, we'll see those outbreaks of rain sweep across the country. Still heavy at times and still falling as snow across northern areas. But we're going to also see very strong winds, a risk of gales, if not severe gales at times, across Northern Ireland, western coasts of England and Wales too, where there is an amber warning in force. And it is going to feel particularly chilly in the brisk winds. Bye for now.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, it's time now for our biggest and greatest Great British giveaway this year, and your chance to win £50,000 in tax-free cash. Here's how.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Still to come, we're going to be talking to the founder of an app about concerns to women's safety on the streets.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
7:27 now. New research shows that 3 in 4 people are changing their route home during the winter to avoid walking in the dark.
Yes, as nearly half of all women say they feel unsafe, even when making their everyday journeys.
Well, earlier this year, the National Police Chiefs Council declared an epidemic scale of violence against women when it was revealed 1 in 12 women are victims every year.
Ooh. Well, in response, the award-winning app WalkSafe has teamed up with leading security specialists Mighty.
Well, the partnership aims to boost personal safety and help people seek support with a 24/7 control centre. So they're never on their own.
Yes. Well, let's speak to the founder of WalkSafe, Emma Kay. Good to see you this morning, Emma. So how does this app work?
So we're free to use and free to download. We have a suite of digital journey sharing options, so you can be tracked in real time. We also have a safety map, so users can know where to head in real time if they need support. That's with police forces, councils and bids. So that's whether or not they've had safety training like Ask for Angela or Active Bystander. But the bigger question here today is around the Mighty partnership, which is really exciting. So if you are a business and you have signed up to WalkSafe Pro, which is a platform which links with the app, it basically gives all of your employees the ability to hit that SOS button if they feel scared when they're walking home, and it will triage straight to the Mighty Control Centre, and they can be on hand to support you and to get you home safely.
See, what I worry about with all of this is, I mean, look, it's great that you're coming up with solutions to try and help people, but we need to tackle the problem.
Yes.
I mean, I'm stunned by these figures. I guess it's something men don't necessarily think about in the same way.
No, I agree. And I think it always feels like a burden on women. I know this is what we were just discussing before. And I think it always feels like the mental load of having to think about our safety. I mean, 69% of women have to think about their journey home every day, especially in the darker nights, especially during a cost of living crisis. And what that means is more of us spend more on taxis, So 28% of us spend money on extra minicabs. Then if you look at 24% of us then also drive, so then we're looking at that small distance, that small walk, we're then getting in a car because we don't feel safe. So yes, definitely more should be done. I think in order to tackle violence against women and girls, which as we know is an epidemic, I think it needs to have a combined solution. And I actually believe this is where businesses who hire so many employees around the country could really be playing their part in keeping them safer.
And it's interesting, we were just having a discussion, weren't we, before we came back on air, talking about mental load. It's all of the behavioural changes that we wouldn't necessarily talk about, but it's just part of your existence as a woman. I mean, on a Saturday morning, I have to come into work very, very early, and I know consciously, and this is just my own personal decision, I have to walk to a busy station, often past drunk people in the early hours of the morning. I tuck my hair into a hat, try and make myself look as you know, broad as possible, wear lots of layers. And I make sure that my AirPods are on silent so I can hear footsteps and things coming towards me. And this Saturday, last Saturday gone, I was walking to the station and I heard running footsteps towards me and I shot around thinking, oh my goodness. And it was a woman, it was a female runner. And I thought, thank goodness. But that's just one walk to work and that happens every day of the week. You wouldn't even come into work and talk to anybody about it.
I agree. We normalise it and we internalise it. And I think because, as we were talking about, that might just be a subset. I think we deal with this constantly. And if we think about Christmas party season, so many of us want to go out, have fun, celebrate a hard year's worth of work with our colleagues. But actually, that mental load you were talking about, having to think about the last train, can I get home safely? 15% of women in marginalised groups will actually miss their Christmas parties and going out and celebrating because they're too worried about that journey home. And we think that's terrible. We want everyone to be able to access the nighttime economy safely, but we also believe our innovative technology can enable people to do that and not miss out.
Yeah, well, look, it's scary but fascinating, and it's good that you're coming up with some solutions for all of this.
Yeah, it'll make women feel safer, having that in their pocket.
Yeah, I hope so. Emma, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
I just never anything I thought about, to be honest, in that sense, that it was a constant
Yeah, and I don't think it's something that we would necessarily talk about because it is just part of
life.
Sadly, being a girl or a woman. You do feel threatened by these things, but it is a mental load. It's a good way to describe it. I mean, the other day, again, with that Saturday shift, I said to my fiancé, I'm really nervous about that walk to the station in the morning because you get catcalled and you get comments and it is quite threatening. And he was like, oh, I've never even thought about that. I'll just drop you down. So, I mean, the men out there, for the women and girls in your life, a lift to the station in the early mornings or a pickup from the Christmas party does go a long way.
Yeah, oh well, it's all worth bearing in mind, isn't it? Right, at 7:32, we're just going to have a look at our poll of the day today because we're looking at Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London. The FT reckons he's going to get a knighthood in the New Year's Honours List, so we're asking if you think he should. We'll bring you the details, the results as they come in throughout the day. Final result on Martin's show later on. You can scan the QR code you can see on your screen if you're watching on the TV. If you're on the radio, go to gbnews.com/poll when it's safe to do so.
Now, do stay with us. Still to come, Paul is going to be here next with all your sport.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Buses replaced trains between Leeds and both Doncaster and Shipley because of flooding and because of overhead line problems, with train services between Leeds and Nottingley via Wakefield Westgate diverting, and trains between Leeds and Sheffield are diverting via Darton. Now, at Conway, the A5 is impassable because of flooding between Betsy Coed and Pentrefoilus. In Bedfordshire, the A5 is closed north of the A505 through Hockliffe after an accident. In Devon, the A39 is impassable near Paracombe because of flooding. In East Sussex, the A21 is closed between Watlington and Westfield after a tree fell, bringing down power cables, and train services have been stopped between Southampton Airport and Basingstoke, where overnight engineering works have overrun. Finally, Hopper Travel sailings to and from the Isle of Wight are suspended between Southsea and Ryde because of a technical problem.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about.
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry, Tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
7:36 now. We're counting down to Christmas Day, of course, in this season of Advent, and we're hearing from church ministers every day from across the country. Here's day 6.
Day 6.
The GB News Advent Calendar, Day 6.
Hi, I'm Tom Finnemore. At Christmas, I find I'm surrounded by excess. The pressure to buy the perfect gift, the ever-increasing temptation to overindulge in food and drink, and the constant pressure to have more. But the Bible offers a different perspective. In Isaiah it says, "Woe to those who rise early in the morning to run after their drinks, who stay up late at night till they're inflamed with wine." This wisdom speaks to the dangers of excess, of filling our lives with things that promise satisfaction, but if we're honest, ultimately leave us feeling empty. It reminds us that the true gift of the season isn't found in what we consume or buy, or how much we can fit into our lives, but in something much deeper. The birth of Jesus Christ, who brings the gift of peace and the promise of hope. So this Christmas, let's slow down, be present with those we love, remembering that lasting fulfillment comes not from excess, but from gratitude and contentment found in the person of Jesus Christ. Have a Merry Christmas.
Oh, we love these, don't we? We just sit there and soak them all in. They're beautifully shot as well. Well done, team.
Yeah, no, they're very nice. Very nice. Like them a lot.
Yeah.
And if you want to see what we've put out so far, you can go to gbnews.com/advent, and they're all there for you.
Yeah, do you know what I'm really annoyed about? I've already eaten day 6 of my advent calendar. I've already realised. Yesterday, I felt like day 5 just didn't go far enough, and I had to open door 6 as well. So I haven't even got anything to look forward to today.
Ellie, if you shake them, sometimes the chocolate will drop from one door into the next.
That is a
and you
really
can have
good idea.
A double day.
Yeah, I need another double day today.
Right, well, I'm glad the spirit and meaning of Advent
Sorry,
has got through to
Sorry,
you
Stephen.
two.
Sorry.
Paul.
Yes.
Let's have a look at the sport, shall we? Premier League last night, Bournemouth won, Tottenham, no.
That's right. Bournemouth won, Tottenham Hotspur. Could have been a lot more as well.
Yeah.
Really wasn't a good performance.
Didn't you almost give up at half-time? Because it was that bad.
Yeah, see, the thing is, it was an 8:15 kickoff. So I'm watching it, thinking, I'm going to half-time. The thing is, though, I can't help myself, so I go to bed, and then I lay there wondering what's going on.
You might
so
as
then
well
I
be
had to
watching
get
it.
back up again
Yeah.
and watch the rest of it.
Yeah, you might as well.
And I probably shouldn't have done. So Spurs lost one, drawn, lost. It's not been very good. It's very all over the place, to be honest with you, and they weren't very good yesterday. I'll give it to Bournemouth. Bournemouth were terrific and probably should have scored more than one. Ange Postecoglou walked around the pitch afterwards. Some Spurs fans were not happy with him, gave him a mouthful, and this is Ange's reaction.
They gave me some direct feedback, which I guess is taken on board.
What was the direct feedback?
Yeah, probably not for here, mate. Yeah, look, I guess so. Look, I got no issue with it. Like I said, you know, didn't like what was being said because I'm a human being. But, you know, you've got to cop it, and I've been around long enough to know that when things don't go well, that, you know, you've got to understand the frustration, the disappointment, and they're rightly disappointed tonight because, you know, again, we've let a game of football get away from us. But that's okay. I'm okay with all that.
I think you can tell he's been crying.
Oh, Ellie, no.
Give over. It's Ange Postecoglou.
It's Ange.
I think that really cut him deep, don't you think?
I think it cut him deep. I don't you know, firstly, I think he's very upset with the way the team played.
He'd cry sand.
And if the... You think so, mate?
Oh, yeah.
No. But then the fans weren't happy, so obviously it's going to cut deep. And he says, you know, I'm a human being. It's obviously going to affect me. But it doesn't get much easier because it's Chelsea at home on Sunday, and Chelsea are looking very good. Fulham beat Brighton 3-1, and I think it's fair to say that Brighton probably should have won this game, but it's all about putting the ball in the back of the net. Not that I'm ever going to go for any clichés. It is.
Yeah. Should we talk cricket?
Oh, you want a bit of cricket?
I want a bit of cricket because there's not much happening, is there? 15 wickets have gone or something?
That's good. That's quite a lot happening.
It's a mere 15 wickets.
In one day? It's quite a lot. It is quite a lot.
It's a mere.
Mere.
It's a mere 15 wickets.
Listen, I think it's mere as in... It's a mere 15... It's actually a lot. That's what I meant to say.
Who wrote that?
I don't know. But he's...
out.
Right, listen, England against New Zealand in Wellington. It was a very good day's cricket. And Harry Brook, who is terrific. He's got an amazing overseas record.
He could blitz a ton.
Yes, that's it. You've redeemed yourself. He did blitz a ton. 123 runs from 115 deliveries, 7 Test centuries outside of Britain. So his away record is incredible. 8 Test hundreds already out of 23 Tests. So the way we are at the moment, England are 280 all out, and New Zealand 86 for 5. 86 for 5.
Who wrote that?
He's still not forgiven them for that script.
Not happy.
Whoever it is out there, you're in trouble. Oh, I've left fingerprints on this guy.
OK. Ellie, where were we? Shall I tell you about Strava?
I hate it when they make me look stupid. I try and pretend.
You didn't. What are you talking about?
I try and pretend I know what I'm talking
You
about.
like to read seamlessly from the notes.
It's my fault from... Oh, listen. It's my fault. I should have just gone... Yeah.
You should have just gone, it's just 15 wickets.
Yeah, only 15 wickets.
God, I'm such an idiot.
Wickets on a 4.
I am an idiot.
No, you're not.
You're going to take this home with you. Just, it's OK. It's fine. You can't know everything about everything.
Like Ange, I will cry.
In the hotel room.
Well, you wait, because there'll be fans. Your fans will be outside, barracking you. And then you'll have to give a press conference afterwards and say how you feel about it. Look... Let me tell you about Strava.
Your favourite story of the day.
I really, really like this. Now, there's a guy who's in Toronto in Canada, and if you've ever run or done exercise on Strava, you must have used it, right?
I can't say I'm a runner. No.
OK, right.
Or a track star.
Anyway.
Are you a runner?
It actually... Listen, I'll tell you about it. It maps out your run. Forget them. It maps out your run. And this guy's done Strava art. Have a look at what he's done. And this is all the runs that he's done. He's run over 700 miles. Now, there we are. That's it. Now, if you can see that animation moving, basically, it's every day is a different one. So he's run over 700 miles, and it's done over many, many months, and that's how it came out.
So it's like one of those flip
it
things.
works just like that. So each every day.
It's very interesting. I mean, it's fun to watch. Listening on the radio, you can picture it, but a stick man walking about on the map. It's very clever.
Well, I didn't think it was that good, to be honest with you.
Oh, give up.
Oh, please. It's been the highlight of your morning.
I don't think it's good, because I did one as well. And I for a few runs that I did, and I did my own Strava art. Can we have a look at this? This is my own private Strava. It's got my name on the top. There's my morning run. And there we are. And as it appears over for an evening run.
Wow.
There we are. That's my version.
You did the Mona Lisa.
Of the Mona Lisa running around Paddington. So if you think Mr. Toronto there...
In colour.
In colour. It's all very well. Him in Toronto doing his little runs backwards and forwards, a little stick man. That is me doing Leonardo da Vinci running around Paddington. So stick that in your Strava run and smoke it, mister, is what I have to say.
Well, look at you.
Thank you very much.
Aren't you impressive?
Well, I try.
There's nothing you can't do, Coity.
Well, I have a go, Ellie.
I didn't know you were a runner.
Yeah.
Oh, he does it all.
It took me 16 years.
Yes, it would
to do that around Paddington.
It would do.
Running at world record pace as well.
It would do. Excellent. Get off. We've got the papers heading away in just a moment.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Her name is synonymous with fashion. Karen Millen, the high street designer whose dresses have been worn by some of the world's most famous women, including the Princess of Wales.
Yes, but in a recent Daily Mail interview conducted by our showbiz juggernaut, as I call her, Steph Tetchy, 63-year-old Karen confessed she isn't immune from worries about her appearance.
Well, this summer, Karen took the plunge with a £35,000 facelift using the very latest surgical techniques. Now, to hear more of her story, we're delighted to be joined by Karen herself and consultant plastic surgeon Dr. Tunç Tiryaki, co-founder of the London Regenerative Institute. So, how did you two get together?
That was a meeting at the Parliament, wasn't it?
It was, actually, yeah, through mutual friends, really.
So you already knew of Tunç and you knew his expertise. How did you come to the decision to kind of go ahead with this? I was reading the Mail article and apparently one day you looked in the mirror, and I've heard this story so many times before,
I know,
from not least my mum and my nan,
Yeah.
and they said they looked in the mirror and thought, goodness me.
I know. I think it's that menopausal thing when suddenly things just change. And, yeah, for me, it was coming out of lockdown almost, where I was probably on the back end of menopause, and I just, suddenly looked in the mirror and it was like, oh, my God, what's happened to me?
Because I guess you still, I mean, for me, I'm 35, I still feel like a 20-year-old or even an 18-year-old. Does that change as you get into sort of your...
Unfortunately not, right?
Well, it does change to a certain extent, but, I've always looked after myself, so I've always kept fit and looked after my skin. So, it did come as a bit of a shock. I mean, I know, obviously, ageing happens to us all and we have to embrace that, but there's a certain amount that we have to put up with and then, other things can step in.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
Oh, no, you didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We're going through the papers now with Norman Baker and Theo Usherwood. Morning, you two. And Norma, let's start with The Guardian, shall we? And Mohammed has become the UK's most popular baby name for boys for the first time.
It has, and I'm sure this will be of interest to GB News listeners and viewers. It is the most popular name, and beyond that, there are two alternative spellings of Mohammed, which also get into the top 100 at 28th and I think 68th on the list.
This is Mohammed. But there's also Mohammed and Mohammed.
Yes, they all get in the top list as well. So that's the most popular boy's name. The most popular girl's name is Olivia for the 8th year running.
Surprised?
With Amelia and
loads of Olivia.
Isla, 2nd and 3rd. But I have to say that last year when I was checking on the list, there were fewer than 10 Normans in the whole country and fewer than 10 Nigels. So my friend Nigel and I were having a discussion about how we were not very popular as names anymore.
Theo's still a very popular name, isn't it, Theo?
It's a very popular name now, but when I was younger, it was very unusual.
Yes,
and
but are people saying Theo? Because what's your actual name?
My name is Theodore, but only...
Oh, I love the name Theodore.
But I don't use that. Just because it's a bit of a mouthful if it's but when I was growing up it was very unusual and you'd never hear it, and so if you ever heard the name then you'd turn around and think that it's you, and then of course now every child's called Theo, and so I find myself in the park and somebody say Theo, and then it's some 2-year-old walking by me and I turn around and it's but it's, I don't think... yes, that's the word. But I'm not sure we need to read too much into this Mohammed's tops. I always get the impression that Mohammed is usually at the top of the charts for boys' names. It
hasn't been before.
It hasn't been before.
It's very near the top.
It's very near the top.
It's been in the top 10.
It's usually near the top. And that's, isn't it just because of its religious significance to the Muslim community, and that's why they choose to pick it, and it becomes the predominant name through generations. I'm not sure we need to.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
But I think it's more to do with the fact that people, it's prominence in the religion of Islam.
Yeah, you traditionally call your firstborn son Mohammed, don't you?
It's just that you can imagine people getting a bit worked up about it, though. And yet we've had Britain's the national dish of the UK has been chicken korma for about 20 years. So no one minds that one. Theo, to the Times. Angela, I don't know the point they're trying to make. Angela Rayner has given permission for M&S to knock down its Oxford Street store, but it's because they want to rebuild it.
They want to rebuild it. I'm going to be a bit of a fuddy-duddy, and I think this is a real disappointment. So this is an Art Deco building that was built in the 1920s. M&S previously applied to knock it down. Westminster City Council granted permission. They want to build a 10-storey modern building with shops and cafes and all the rest of it in its place. Westminster City Council granted permission going back to 2021. Then Michael Gove, who was the Levelling Up Secretary, quite rightly, in my view, blocked it. I mean, it's a stunning building, and now...
It's not a stunning building.
Yeah.
It is a stunning building. If you put it in the piece...
It's very grey, Theo.
It's great, but this is architecture. This is part of our heritage, and Kristin Scott Thomas and the comedian Griff Rhys-Jones, who are part of Save Britain's Heritage, happen to agree with me.
I think you're being very generous.
Wow. Oh, I agree with them. Yeah. But the point I'm making is that this is obviously Angela Rayner's part of this is a significant story in that they want to go for growth, and planning legislation being allowed to get in the way of a development that will bring about 2,000 jobs. You can get the reasoning for allowing this to go ahead, but with onshore wind farms and demolishing Art Deco buildings from the 1920s, you have to wonder whether this will all come at a cost.
Time to freshen up, Theo. Time to freshen up. Well, this is... let's move on. Can we move on to this in the Telegraph, Ron? Because I think this is fascinating.
Oh, that caught my eye.
Security for former Prime Ministers is unsustainable, but that's because there's 8 of them.
Well, I don't know what the collective noun for ex-Prime Ministers is, but a gaggle or whatever it might be. But there are more ex-Prime Ministers alive now than I think ever before.
Well, yeah,
not least of all because the Tories got through so many in such a short period of time. 43 days, was it Liz Truss, or was it even fewer than that? I can't quite remember.
She doesn't get that much protection. She only gets one, I think.
The point is that you do have to protect people who have got a threat against them, and certainly in the days of, say, Blair, for example, and the Northern Ireland peace process, you could understand that there was a reason to make sure they were properly protected. But I mean, I don't mean unkind to Liz Truss, but who's going to bump off Liz Truss? It's not worth bothering about that. So, I mean, we've got...
No. Anyone who had a political point to make, a jihadist or anything else, attacking a former Prime Minister would be a huge deal.
But they would not go for her, I don't think.
But it would be hugely significant, and I think, if Labour want to blame the Tories for one thing of their inheritance, it's the £10 million bill, given the political turmoil we had during those 14 years, which led to, David Cameron through to Rishi Sunak. But if... and this is not something you want to sort of talk about too sort of candidly, but, if we had a situation where a former Prime Minister was subject to a terrorist attack, it would be a huge blow, even if that Prime Minister had only served a matter of weeks. And you have to draw the line in a sensible place.
Exactly.
And a sensible place is... She's a former Prime Minister, Liz Truss, as is Rishi Sunak, as is Boris Johnson, as is David Cameron and Theresa May. they need to have police protection.
I don't necessarily agree you have to draw the line, but you draw the line based on an assessment of a particular risk for an individual as to what they are lined up to do or have done before, and who might be the people who might be attacking them.
Okay.
That's the assessment made.
It's an important story, and sadly we're out of time. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Here's the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into the weekend, Storm Dara is likely to bring some heavy rain and strong winds at times, with multiple Met Office warnings in force, and we're likely to see some disruption as we head into the weekend. To start off on Friday, though, it's almost the calm before the storm. Plenty of blue skies, lots of dry weather, just a few showers feeding in around coast of Scotland. But through into the afternoon, we will see a change as cloud spills in from the west, heavy outbreaks of rain around western coast and through into Northern Ireland. We'll start to see some very gusty winds as we head into the afternoon too. Turning milder under that cloud and rain, but along eastern areas, another chilly day on offer. Now, as we head through into the evening, those heavy outbreaks of rain are going to continue to move their way eastwards, falling as snow mainly across high ground, across parts of Scotland, also around northern parts of England too. A largely dry end to the very far northeast of Scotland, but it won't be long before that rain starts to move in. Similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, heavy and blustery outbreaks of rain falling as snow at times once again across higher ground. And similar elsewhere across England and Wales, a very wet end to the day and turning increasingly blustery as we head into the evening too. Multiple wind warnings out around coastal areas and through into inland areas as well. Heavy outbreaks of rain sweeping their way across the country. Still heavy at times overnight and still falling as snow mainly in northern areas too, and turning very blustery, particularly around western coasts. And it is going to be a chilly night on offer, particularly in those very brisk winds. So a very unsettled start to the weekend. Once again, we'll see those outbreaks of rain sweep across the country. Still heavy at times and still falling as snow across northern areas. But we're going to also see very strong winds, a risk of gales, if not severe gales at times, across Northern Ireland, western coasts of England and Wales too, where there is an amber warning in force. And it is going to feel particularly chilly in the brisk winds. Bye for now.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Delays and cancellations are possible to trains across the UK this morning because of a technical problem affecting communications between drivers and signal workers. Buses replaced trains between Leeds and both Doncaster and Shipley because of flooding and because of overhead line problems, with trains between Leeds and Nottingley via Wakefield Westgate diverting, and trains between Leeds and Sheffield are diverting via Darton. In Conway, the A5 is impassable because of flooding between Betsy Coed and Pentravoilus. Trains have been stopped between McCunliffe, both Pwllheli and Aberystwyth because of a signalling problem. On the M25 in Surrey, there are clockwise queues towards and past Junction 6 at Godstone after a van broke down. Trains have been stopped between Southampton Airport and Basingstoke because of overrunning engineering works, and hover travel sailings to and from the Isle of Wight are cancelled between Southsea and Ryde because of a technical problem.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For your chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The Prime Minister faces a backlash after setting out his 6 key milestones.
Well, he's accused of watering down 2 of his key election pledges amid signs the economy is struggling in the wake of the budget.
In his speech yesterday, he also promised to take on NIMBYs, holding major projects to ransom as he ushers in what he calls a new era.
I expect to be judged on my ability to deal with it. And the work of change has begun.
France in crisis. Emmanuel Macron vows to stay on as president after his government is toppled following a no-confidence vote.
A poll reveals voters believe the UK should prioritise its relationship with Europe over the US. Do you think it's right?
Feeling plucky? Well, today marks My Turkey Day, where Britain celebrates homegrown turkey meat ahead of Christmas. Our reporter Will Hollis will be on a farm in Lincolnshire.
And are you dreaming of a white Christmas? Well, music legend Carol Decker is. It's a new song, which is out. Plus, T'Pau's got a new single out as well. We'll talk to her in about half an hour.
And the sport, Spurs have a bad night on the south coast as Bournemouth leapfrogged them in the Premier League. Fulham move up to 6th after beating Brighton, and George Russell really does not like Max Verstappen very much, and it seems that the feeling is mutual.
Hello there. Many of us will be waking up to blue skies this morning, but Storm Dara is on its way, bringing heavy outbreaks of rain and strong winds. I'll be here with all the details.
It's just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
I just want to start with some breaking news that we've got this morning, and it's very grim if you're thinking of going anywhere by train this morning, because there is apparently a nationwide fault affecting rail services this morning. Network Rail has issued this warning. It's right across the network, apparently. It's something to do with the communication system used between drivers and signallers.
Travellers are being advised to check before they travel, but journeys in and out of major transport hubs, including London, Paddington and Victoria, have been impacted this morning.
Yeah, so stay at home until you know what's going on. I think is going to be the sensible move to all of this, because it's and I mean, the idea of it being a nationwide fault is just going to cause not only chaos now, but actually this huge backlog on the system as well. So it's very grim news. We're going to talk to Simon Calder about that very shortly. We'll see what he can tell us. He'll be fully up to date with all the details, as you can imagine.
Now let's head to our top story, because Labour are pledging to tackle NIMBYism and launch a golden age of house building.
All part of Sir Keir Starmer's 6 milestones announced yesterday that he says voters can use to judge him against at the next election.
Let's take a listen.
Higher living standards in every region of the country. Britain rebuilt with 1.5 million new homes, safer streets, more police on the beat, the best start in life for every child, with a record proportion of 5-year-olds starting school ready to learn, clean power by 2030, homegrown British energy, waiting lists in our NHS cut.
But the announcement's been met with criticism and warnings that his pledges to build 1.5 million homes by the end of the Parliament is just going to be unattainable.
Well, the Prime Minister has also faced criticism for not outlining any new targets on migration. Well, earlier we spoke to Deputy Political Editor of The Mail on Sunday, Anna Mikulova.
You've had, since Labour came into government, more than 20,000 people come over on small boats. And I think if you're making a speech like that in the current climate, to not mention it and to then bat away questions about it and almost look annoyed that journalists are asking about it repeatedly is it's just odd.
I wonder if we need, sort of getting to the heart of the matter with it all. And I was just intrigued by Norman Baker in the papers earlier on, because obviously former minister and, he's a man who knows his stuff, whether you agree with him politically or not, who said, well, Keir Starmer's just not really a very good politician. Which seems remarkable. It's remarkable. The man's Prime Minister now.
He's obviously he is obviously been able to be able to get to that top job. He has political skills. He has a certain ruthlessness that allowed him to very successfully reform his party and take it away from Corbynism quite quickly, quicker than anyone expected. But in terms of having the nous and that instinct for just bread and butter politics, in the way that Tony Blair did, in the way that John Prescott recently, obviously everyone was reminded how he did. He doesn't have that. He's much more of a technocrat. I think Starmer himself talks about that, really. He likes to say that he's not really from any political, you can't really politically define him as easily. But this does feel like a mistake. I don't understand why they've done it, to be honest. I mean, it's 5 months in. You had party conference, which is the moment to do this sort of speech, if you're going to do it at all. And instead, it's almost like they've decided that the public really wants to hear more politicians talking about promises. We've just had an election campaign full of promises. I think the public wants to see some change. They want to see hospitals actually working and serving them, but they want to see their living standards actually improve, as opposed to a Prime Minister tell them, we'll be able to tell you when your living standards improve because of this new milestone. Well, no, people will actually feel it if that happens.
We're back.
It's odd, isn't it? I mean, it's these targets, milestones. Some people are saying millstones round his neck, which they could be. And we can't judge him till the election. Will any of us remember this at the election? I mean, this is the problem. I sort of think it's sort of these arbitrary targets to make us feel like they're doing something that we're just going to forget about in a few years. So I just don't know.
PW's been in touch saying Starmer's plan for change. No, it's more like his plan to fail.
Scunny says waiting for the next general election is similar to prisoners counting down the days until their release.
Tim says Starmer promises 1.5 million new build homes built by 2030. That's 5,500 new homes per week. Really, I don't think so.
Interesting. We're going to talk to the Housing Minister a little bit later on, actually. Well, it's all about growth, though. It's all meant to be about growth, this government. The budget doesn't seem to have helped growth anything. In fact, people seem to have less money in their pockets, and presumably businesses feel the same way. But, of course, a lot of growth is based on who we deal with, who we trade with, how all that works. Well, a YouGov poll has revealed that 44% of us think our economic future lies with our closest neighbours in the EU, as opposed to the United States of America.
So this morning we're asking, who should we prioritise? Our friends across the pond, those that we have a special relationship with, or should we be rekindling our relationship with Europe?
Well, let's talk to Chairman of Republicans Overseas UK, Greg Swenson, and former Minister of State for Europe, Dennis McShane. Good to see you both this morning. Greg, we've had such a long relationship with the EU, being part of it as we were, and very close neighbours, a big, huge trading bloc. Why should we prioritise the United States over the EU?
Well, I think in the long term, you should prioritise both. But in the near term, I think prioritising with the US is a better move. I mean, look, the European economies, per capita output is 2/3 in Europe versus the US. And I think that has to be taken into consideration. The energy sector in the US will not only liberalize the US economy, but will really benefit the UK as well, and our European trading partners. So look, I think this is the answer in the long term is both. In the near term, pivot to the US because that's the country that's going to be liberated first economically.
Dennis, who should we be closer to?
I completely agree with my Republican friend. Both. It's a crazy, crazy question. We trade more than twice as much with the European Union as we do with America for the simple reason Europe is 20 miles away. America, Greg, I think is, 3,000 miles away. I mean, that's just common sense. Always has been the case. I mean, Britain's wealth, its empire, its strength was because we traded with Europe. Anything from coal to wool, now it's money, financial services. And President Trump, he's going to be in Europe this weekend. He's not coming to England. Kevin Badenoch's trying to see him. Nigel will probably call him up. He's in France because the special relationship is really between America and the European nation that helped, wait for it, liberate them from English imperialism, namely France. And so President Trump's going to be there, hobnobbing with President Macron, and I don't think he's stopping here on the way back to America. Both. We need to maximize trade, and our big problem right now is, of course, the government is following the Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak line of less and less trade with Europe. And that's a huge problem. It's down 15%. That impacts our GDP. There's so many firms that can't trade as once they did because of the stupid Brexit restrictions. And that is an area we all need to look at.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think a lot of people would agree with you that some of the rules need to be looked at. But at the moment, it's not going to change anytime soon. We know a lot of things could change, Greg, on the 20th of January, after the inauguration of President Trump, once again. But there is a big question still over what he's going to do in terms of trade and tariffs, which he said he's very keen on, but whether they'll apply to us or not could be crucial.
Yeah, all the more reason to do a deal. I mean, this is a great opportunity for Starmer to actually execute a trade deal with the U.S. I think it's a wise idea. And remember, there's risk for the U.S. here, too. You know, the U.S.-European trade is $1.5 trillion, much more than that in terms of foreign direct investment, both directions. And the Europeans are a much bigger trading partner for the U.S. than China. So it's really important, I think, for people to get, both the Europeans and the U.K., to get ahead of the potential risk of tariffs and do a trade deal with the U.S.
Dennis, did Trump's tariffs make you nervous?
They sure do, because the last time he was president, he imposed 20% tariff on Scotch. David Frost, do you remember the famous David Frost? He was running the Scotch Whisky Federation a few years ago, and he couldn't deliver anything. And then he imposed another big tariff on British steel, specialist steel that goes into aircraft engines. And thank God Joe Biden won the election. I'm not getting into Biden-Trump debates here, but and lifted those. But if President Trump plays to his natural gut instincts, he's never seen trade he's liked unless America was the only country profiting from it. And that is lose-lose trade. America has to profit from it. We have to profit from it. Europe has to profit from it. And I just hope, because if he does impose these tariffs, believe me, the cost of living for every American citizen will go up far worse than they've experienced in recent years. And President Trump's popularity, once he's in power, may sink very fast if he plays protectionist games with trade.
Just a quick final word to you, Greg, on that one.
Yeah, look, I think there's risk, but the tariffs in his first term did not really have an inflationary effect on consumers. Of course, they were offset by the deregulation and tax reform, which has been maintained since then. And that's really helped the U.S. economy under Biden, ironically. So look, of course there's risk. I think tariffs are good in some ways for revenues, for helping American industries that are critical to the U.S. Security as well. And also, you know, in terms of negotiating tools, right? That's worked already with Mexico and Canada. I don't know that there's any risk to the Europeans and to the UK if they can get ahead of that and do a deal with the Trump administration.
OK. Greg Swenson, Dennis McShane, we've got to leave it there, but really good to see you both. Thank you.
Let us know what you think. As always, gbnews.com/your say. Let's check on the weather now with Honor.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into the weekend, Storm Dara is likely to bring some heavy rain and strong winds at times, with multiple Met Office warnings in force, and we're likely to see some disruption as we head into the weekend. To start off on Friday, though, it's almost the calm before the storm. Plenty of blue skies, lots of dry weather, just a few showers feeding in around coast of Scotland. But through into the afternoon, we will see a change as cloud spills in from the west, heavy outbreaks of rain around western coast and through into Northern Ireland. We'll start to see some very gusty winds as we head into the afternoon too. Turning milder under that cloud and rain, but along eastern areas, another chilly day on offer. Now, as we head through into the evening, those heavy outbreaks of rain are going to continue to move their way eastwards, falling as snow mainly across high ground, across parts of Scotland, also around northern parts of England too. A largely dry end to the very far northeast of Scotland, but it won't be long before that rain starts to move in. Similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, heavy and blustery outbreaks of rain, falling as snow at times once again across higher ground. And similar elsewhere across England and Wales, a very wet end to the day and turning increasingly blustery as we head into the evening too. Multiple wind warnings out around coastal areas and through into inland areas as well. Heavy outbreaks of rain sweeping their way across the country. Still heavy at times overnight and still falling as snow mainly in northern areas too, and turning very blustery, particularly around western coasts. And it is going to be a chilly night on offer, particularly in those very brisk winds. So a very unsettled start to the weekend. Once again, we'll see those outbreaks of rain sweep across the country. Still heavy at times and still falling as snow across northern areas. But we're going to also see very strong winds, a risk of gales, if not severe gales at times, across Northern Ireland, western coasts of England and Wales too, where there is an amber warning in force. And it is going to feel particularly chilly in the brisk winds. Bye for now.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, it's time now for our biggest and greatest Great British giveaway this year, and your chance to win £50,000 in tax-free cash. £50,000, you heard it right, tax-free cash. It could all be yours. Here's how.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Just going to remind you that we've got that breaking news about the trains this morning. If you're thinking about getting on a train, there's a big problem for all of that. Nationwide issue. So we'll keep you across all of that and try and get the latest from Simon Calder very shortly. But also coming up, we're going to be talking to the legendary Carol Decker. We have China in our hands, ladies and gentlemen. So we're talking to Carol about her new Christmas song, which is out.
Friday night live with Mark Dolan from 8 p.m.
You know, whenever I want to have a laugh, I will fire up a Ricky Gervais special on Netflix. He's funny, isn't he? Very politically incorrect. I might watch a vintage episode of Fawlty Towers if it hasn't been cancelled. Or I could just read up on the latest musings from the Welsh Labour government. And this week they have waged war on the countryside, which is apparently unwelcoming to British people of colour. Well, it's true, isn't it? I mean, those racial checkpoints in the Wye Valley are completely unacceptable. And the snowy bits of Mount Snowdon scream white privilege. Can you believe this story? It's proof, if you needed it, that Welsh Labour are barking mad and talking a load of shih tzu.
I think what's so interesting about this, I mean, this is an absurd question. This is ridiculous. Obviously, dogs and the countryside are not inherently racist. I think this entire connection between what is effective cultural Marxism, in addition to what is effective socialism, that is at the heart of Welsh Labour and many other hard left groups in the United Kingdom.
I got to do a correction.
Go
because
on.
It's not Welsh Labour. It was one little thinky-tanky that did some research. I know it was taxpayer funded, but it was just a suggestion. Welsh Labour have not gone, yes, that's a good idea. This research, which I wholly agree is quite absurd, was done by interviewing the 4% ethnic minorities of Wales, and they came out with the fact that they don't feel welcome in green spaces because there are so many dogs, and that's how this was born. I mean, I don't know whether that
It's
makes
ridiculous.
it make any more sense.
And the fact that taxpayers are footing the bill for research like this is the real scandal. That we had this earlier conversation about the National Health Service, where all of our money is going and being wasted, and it is also being wasted on absolute nonsense like this.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, have you got your fingers out ready? Because what we've had, 6 National Policy Forum priorities, 5 missions, 6 steps, 3 foundations, another 5 missions, 6 milestones. It's all what's happening from the government at the moment. It's very, very confusing. Let's shed some light on it all with the Minister of State for Housing and Planning, Matthew Pennycook, who joins us now. Good to see you this morning. It is all very confusing, all these lists and targets and all the rest of it. Why was there a need for a reset yesterday and laying all this out for us?
Well, it's not a reset, Steve. We were very clear in the election campaign that we had a number of missions that we wanted to achieve as a government. We've taken a number of very decisive first steps in our 5 months in office so far to deliver on those missions. But what we set out yesterday in the Plan for Change was a number of specific milestones by which the public can judge us and our progress on achieving those missions over the course of the Parliament. So these are tangible milestones that people can track, they can hold us to account, and they can judge us on our record come the next general election.
You're setting yourself up for failure, though, aren't you? Especially when you look at your domain, when you look at housing, building 1.5 million homes. I mean, that's 5,500 new homes every single week, isn't it? Councils are saying this target is impossible, and even the government has admitted that house numbers won't even start to rise until 2027.
So I don't accept the target is impossible. It is an incredibly stretching target. We've been nothing but candid about that throughout the election campaign and before. It will be difficult to achieve. Every part of our plan needs to be put into effect. But I put to you, what is the alternative? We could have picked an incredibly easy target. We could have picked, for example, the previous government's target of 1 million homes over a 5-year parliament. We could have achieved that very easily. Doing so wouldn't have been enough to address the acute and entrenched housing crisis we have in England or boost economic growth. And I get in my advice surgery week after week, young families who are in overcrowded or not decent housing, who desperately need an affordable home to rent. We've got a generation locked out of home ownership. So we've got to step up to the crisis. And yes, it's a stretching target, but it is an achievable one. And I'd say to those council leaders who think it's not possible, come with us on that journey. If you need support to put in plans the place and the targets that we've given you, we will give that support to you. But we won't accept recalcitrants who just say, no, we're not going to do this.
But you say, what's the alternative? Well, the alternative, many would say, would be to remove people who are not meant to be in the country and reduce the number of migrants coming here, reduce net migration, which is important to a lot of people in this country and wasn't even on Keir Starmer's list.
Well, border security was one of the foundations in the plan for change, alongside national security, economic stability. So it runs through everything we do. The Prime Minister and the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, were very clear yesterday. Levels of legal and illegal migration must come down. We must do more to tackle the root causes of why we've seen such high numbers, a quadrupling, according to the current statistics, over recent years of the number of legal migrants coming over to fill vacancies in the workforce. We've got to do more to skill up our own people, to train our own people to do those jobs and bring down levels. But we're not going to set an arbitrary target like the last government did on migration and miss it. That would erode public trust and confidence in the system. But we're very clear it's got to come down. It's one of the foundational elements of the plan for change published yesterday.
But you don't want to set arbitrary targets for migration, but you are happy to set them for housing with 1.5 million new homes over the course of this Parliament. You're happy to set it for the NHS, 18 weeks for 92% of patients in order to get an operation, and you're happy to set it for the number of police officers as well. So why will you not set it for what many deem to be the biggest issue facing this country?
Well, I dispute that those are arbitrary targets in terms of the milestones we've set. We've thought very carefully through what the milestones should be in particular areas. We say they are challenging to bring forward the change we need for working people across this country. They've got to be challenging. The scale of the crisis we face in many of the areas is such that we've got to step up and deliver at a large scale. So they are achievable. When it comes to migration, as I say, we had from the previous Conservative government arbitrary targets that were not delivered, had no chance of being delivered, and it erodes public trust and confidence in the system. So we are already taking very decisive steps, setting up Border Security Command, other interventions, near record levels of deportation, nearly 10,000 deportations in our first months in office. So we are taking steps to bring down illegal, and we will on legal migration as well, but we're not going to set an arbitrary target like the previous government did.
You talk about public confidence. Well, that's obviously where things are really lacking at the moment. I mean, you know, you don't need me to tell you what the polls are saying. I mean, you're polling behind Reform on national polls at the minute, and Keir Starmer's personal rating is something like minus 32. A lot of people are looking at this, people who know how politics works, and saying it's a PR exercise. You know, why talk about these things rather than just getting on and dealing with it and letting the work speak for itself?
Because working people across the country have got to feel the change that we promised to deliver. And what these milestones are, it's the next stage in a mission-led government. It's a way for the public to be able to judge us and to judge our progress on very specific and tangible metrics about how we're going to achieve our missions. And I think people should welcome the fact that they can look in real time, if you like, at how we're doing in terms of these milestones over the coming years. And we absolutely rightly expect to be judged on how we deliver over the course of the Parliament. In terms of the inheritance, it's a very difficult one. And we knew coming in it wasn't going to be all roses. It was a difficult inheritance. We had to make some very tough decisions, as you know, not least in terms of putting the public finances on a sound footing, having discovered that £22 billion black hole. So it has involved difficult decisions over recent months, but judge us on how we deliver over the full course of the Parliament, and these milestones will be the way that the public are able to do that.
Coming back to your brief of housing, how are you going to tackle the NIMBYs in this country, the not in my backyard lobby? I mean, you've been accused of being a NIMBY before in the past, haven't you? In your constituency, you opposed 1,500 new homes on the Morden Wharf development. And this is the issue, isn't it? People just don't want big developments happening in their backyard. What are you going to do about that?
Well, I think there are a minority of people who don't want any kind of development anywhere near them. We've got to take those people on. I think there are a wider group of people who just want better development in their areas, and Morden Wharf is a good example of a development which wasn't in line with the local plan in my particular part of southeast London, wasn't aligned with what the community therefore had said it wanted built there. And You know, very interestingly, not a spade has been put in the ground since that was given consent many years ago. It's the type of speculative development we don't actually want to see coming forward. We've got to see planned development that will be built out, because that's the only way we're going to meet that 1.5 million new homes target.
OK, Minister, really good to see you this morning. Thanks for taking the time to speak to us. We appreciate it. Right, interesting. Well, they're defending their ground, and you know, all hats off to them for doing that and for coming on the show to do it. So we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Right, that breaking news this morning is about the rail network. Problems right across the country, apparently. Let's get the latest from travel correspondent for The Independent, Simon Calder, who will know what's going on. Morning, Simon.
Good morning. Yes. So what we've got is a failure of the global system for mobile communications for railways, known as GSMR. This is its dedicated network. It's nothing to do with the normal mobile phone network that allows train drivers to communicate with signallers, and therefore it's actually very important. But unfortunately, it has developed a fault this morning. The impact across the country is very patchy. What I'm seeing, for instance, in London Waterloo, one of the 3 busiest stations in Britain, cancellations of trains coming in. Elsewhere, we're seeing delays on the line that runs basically through London, north to south, from Brighton to Gatwick, through London up to Cambridge, to Bedford and to Peterborough. Also, there's warnings of problems on the Elizabeth line going east-west through the capital. ScotRail was having problems, but they now seem to have been cleared up. And if the mobile network fault doesn't get you, the fallen tree between Wakefield and Leeds may possibly do that. So a messy old start to the Friday rush hour for an awful lot of people, I'm afraid.
It certainly is, Simon. And how long do you think the disruption could last?
It's difficult to say. I mean, this is one of those cases where it's very patchy. It's not clear what has happened or why it has happened, and therefore the only advice that National Rail can give and I can give is, well, hope for the best, but be prepared for delays and disruption. At the moment, it mostly seems to be in southeast England, but that's actually also where you get the highest number of travellers.
Yeah. OK, Simon, thanks very much indeed. I know you'll keep us up to date with what's going on with that. Depressing as it is, let's cheer you up a little bit, should we? Because, especially if you're a certain age, like me, T'Pau was a legendary band. And, of course, the iconic singer Carol Decker was... I mean, you just never forget Carol, frankly. Anyway, she's back. With a Christmas cover of the classic White Christmas, and she's joined by none other than Steve Norman from Spandau Ballet.
Well, let's have a little listen.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, with every Christmas card I write.
Oh,
gets
lovely.
you in the spirit.
Of course it does, and Carol joins us now. Good to see you. How are things, Carol? How are you doing?
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Ellie. Yeah, that was such a fun thing to do. Steve, you're such a sweetheart. And thanks for mentioning the T'Pau singles out as well, Miles and Miles, if people want to listen to that. And I'm currently talking to you from a luxurious hotel. I'm on tour with the Human League and Sophie Ellis-Bextor, so busy, 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 and very happy. Thank you.
I just love the fact that it never stops, does it? And there's always this hunger for that. I mean, that fabulous sort of 80s music.
I know. I mean, who knew? But I do interviews all the time, and people say, why? I don't really know. I just roll with it and enjoy myself. And yeah, you know, when you join a band, you don't have a plan for the next day. I didn't think I'd be doing it 37 years later.
There's such a demand, though, isn't it, Carol? I mean, people just love 80s music. It's so nostalgic.
They do. Well, I think we wrote really great to-the-point pop songs back then. You know, we used to have a little saying when you were writing a song, please don't bore us, get to the chorus. I think there's lots of melody, all the iconic personalities, all the different ways that people used to dress. Everybody was very individual. And I think it was set against a backdrop of an incredibly exciting decade, you know, all the new technology, the mobile phone, computers, the birth of MTV was very exciting. So it was a very dynamic decade, and we were so lucky to be part of it.
Tell us about the new. I mean, obviously you've got White Christmas out with Steve, which is just a great little number for this time of year. But I'm intrigued by T'Pau releasing a new single because I haven't heard any new music from the band for a long time.
Well, the thing is, look, we don't have a major record deal anymore, and there isn't the Top of the Pops anymore, so you have to do it yourself. So we do release download singles. There's quite a few up on Spotify, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to let people know. So Miles and Miles is our new single, and that came out also on the 29th of November. And there's Be Wonderful, Guess Who's Sorry Now, World on Fire. There's quite a few singles up there. So if you just go looking on the old Spotify or whatever your platform is, the platforms are available, you'll find us. We've got some great stuff out there.
Carol, what was it like covering White Christmas? Because it is one of the most iconic Christmas songs. I mean, you set the bar high with that one. And how did that collaboration come about with Steve as well?
Okay, so Steve has a great relationship with a lot of radio and TV in Germany because, Spandau was so big all over the world. And he got asked to do the listeners to 80s Radio, which is a big station in Berlin, asked what Christmas classic would you like covered, and they picked White Christmas. And Steve was involved with the station, and they said, well, it'd be great to do a duet on it. So he called me, and I'd never done a Christmas single. In fact, when I was younger, I'd really turned my nose up at it and thought it was super cheesy. And it is a little bit cheesy, but I don't care anymore. And so I flew to Berlin, and we recorded the single on the Monday. We shot the video on the Tuesday, which is basic but great fun. And yeah, it's a huge responsibility to cover such a classic song, but I think we've done it justice. And obviously you could only play a snippet, but Steve's done the most gorgeous soulful sax break across it. It's really lovely. And we really focused with our producer on very, very almost slightly cliche 80s keyboard sounds. And I think a classic pop mag have said it's a Christmas single, that Mariah Carey and Whitney would be proud of, because we've gone for all those classic sounds.
Well, that's high praise indeed.
And the outfit's something special, Carol, obviously.
Oh, thank you.
Very, very special. I tell you what, we view things slightly differently over here, because we sort of forget that the European market is actually often very different to our own, don't they? And there's this huge appetite out there. Yeah, it is, and they're very loyal as well. They're very loyal. We were fortunate enough to have quite a few hits in Europe, and they are very loyal to you. And I get to go over and play big festivals and stuff. And of course, it's great being out in Germany in the winter because of all the Christmas markets and things like that. So it's really, really nice. And Berlin is a fabulous town. We were in East Berlin, which I hadn't actually been to before. It's very different architecturally. So look, I just have so much fun at the moment. I really do.
And you sorry, you go.
No, I was just going to say, because you said all the T'Pau stuff's on Spotify. I'm guessing your biggest streamers must still be China in Your Hand and Heart and Soul. Are they? Because they just never age. No, we're really so grateful that we have a couple of classics under our belt. They do keep you going, and and we're still working because of it. But there is new music out there, obviously. Brilliant stuff.
And you mentioned you're on tour with the Human League and with Sophie Ellis-Bextor. What's that experience like for you? Absolutely fabulous. We had the first show last night, so it was a little bit of a bun fight. The technical side of it's always quite tricky on the first night. It'll smooth out as we go along, but it didn't affect the performance. That was great. A bit like a swan. We were gliding along the top, singing to the public behind the stage, just going like this on the first night. But it went really well. We're off to Manchester now, to the AO Arena. And we're touring the whole of the UK. And it's Human League's Generations tour, because it's their 40th anniversary. And I'm lucky enough to be asked to do a little opening slot, which is great fun. And it's so many 40th anniversaries. Of course, Live Aid, 40 years old, and Steve Moore was very involved in that. And I've just finished touring with Now That's What I Call a Musical, which is a musical written around the Now albums that we all buy with the compilations. And they're 40 years old this year. So I'm getting a lot of work with this 40th anniversary. Don't think about it. It makes you feel old. It makes you feel old. That's what I call Music 6, I think, was my first one. I don't know what you mean, Steve. I still look exactly the same.
You do. Carol, look, it's really good to see you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. And
see you.
I know you like watching GB News, and you know, we know nothing about technical difficulties here, Carol, as you know.
Yeah. I was really worried about doing this on Zoom, actually. It's always terrifying. And congratulations on your viewing figures, by the way.
Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, it's all going well, and they'll be even higher because you're on. Carol, thanks very much indeed. Good luck.
Good to see you, Carol.
Merry Christmas.
And to you.
Merry Christmas.
She's lovely, is Carol.
Isn't she lovely?
She's a really, really nice person.
She's busy as well.
And busy, yeah. Who doesn't love a bit of 80s? Eh?
I know.
Get you into all of that, darling.
Oh, you will. And so will Carol.
Still to come. Paul's got all your sport.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Delays and cancellations are possible to a number of train services this morning because of a nationwide technical problem affecting communication between train drivers and signal workers. Buses replaced trains between Leeds and both Doncaster and Shipley because of flooding and because of overhead line problems. Train services between Leeds and Nottingley via Wakefield Westgate are diverting, and trains between Leeds and Sheffield are diverting via Darton. There are delays of up to 20 minutes to trains between Machynlleth and both Pwllheli and Aberystwyth because of a signalling problem. In Devon, the A39 is impassable near to Paracombe because of flooding. There are some cancelled trains between Southampton Airport Parkway and Basingstoke because of overrunning engineering works, and hover travel sailings to and from the Isle of Wight are suspended between Southsea and Ryde because of a technical problem.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Paul Coit is here. Good morning. Give us a bit of heart and soul in your sport.
See,
I know. We were
when
just,
I sang it first, you didn't know what it was, did you?
We were just playing it in the break.
Yeah.
Heart and soul. Great tune.
It's very catchy. It's very good.
Great song. Big hit in America.
Yeah.
Very good. Let's just keep me talking about school. We have to do it.
Yeah, we do have
about
to
Spurs
do it.
again.
I'm afraid so.
Right, Bournemouth 1, Spurs 0. Spurs have lost 1.
Lost to rip the plaster off, yeah.
And then they lost 1, and then they drew and lost, and lost 6 out of 14 Premier League games. Weren't good last night. Bournemouth were very good, have now leapfrogged them in the Premier League.
Ouch.
Brighton were really good yesterday, but they ended up losing to Fulham, which was...
Fulham are on good form, though, at the moment.
They are. They really are. I mean, if Brighton had won, though, yesterday. Brighton would have been on the same points as Manchester City. There's been so many strange games. So I know you were saying that to me yesterday about the strangeness of the Premier League, and I can't put my finger on it exactly, Ellie Reason, but I will look into it for you.
Very good.
What about the Club World Cup draw?
Oh, I'm very excited.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad someone is, because not many people are.
You've only got 2 English clubs in it, haven't we?
Yeah, that's right. Chelsea are in it and Manchester City. It's all done on how teams have done in the Champions League in the past. So they've got 32 teams, and the plan is 12 European clubs are involved, so only 2 clubs per country, 32 teams, 8 groups of 4. The idea is that Infantino, who runs FIFA, wants his own legacy and wants to bring in his own World Cup. So the World Cup is huge and thinks the World Club Cup will be huge. But, I mean, let's be honest, only really supporters of those clubs will be really interested in it. They do it anyway, but it's just going to be expanded. It's going to be every 4 years. Manchester City, so they made the draw, and down to Gloria Estefan. In Group G, Man City will play Juventus, Wydad AC, which is actually what my son said to me when I was watching the draw, of Morocco, Al Ain of Saudi Arabia, Chelsea are in Group D, have Flamengo of Brazil, Club Leon of Mexico, Esperanza Sportive de Tunis. From
Tunisia.
Very good.
Right, now, a whopping 15 wickets went in Wellington.
Absolutely, yeah, the huge amount. It was a great day's cricket, Stephen. Harry Brook, he's unbelievable form. I mean, he is some batsman, this kid. 7 Test centuries outside England, 8 in all. He's only played 23 Tests already. Scored 300 against Pakistan a little while ago. But this is the first day of the second Test between England, New Zealand and Wellington. So England, 280 all out. Thank goodness for Harry Brook. New Zealand currently 86 for 5.
Did Harry get 120 something?
He was 123, yeah. You can always rely on Harry Brook.
We can always rely on Harry.
Right, we are out of time.
Are we?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but we are out of time.
OK, that's fine.
So you've got to go. We won't see you till next week now.
No. See you next week. Have a lovely weekend.
Yes, all right, you be good. You be good. No, we've got to go because we've got the papers with Theo and Norman in just a minute.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe. Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Restaurant St. Bart's executive head chef Johnny Crowe creates ramen with a British twist, using only the finest UK-sourced produce. As the only restaurant in London to hold both a Michelin star and a green Michelin star, St. Bart's emphasises sustainability and the diversity of British ingredients. Johnny joins me now. Johnny, congratulations on having these 2 Michelins. How do you get a Michelin green star?
Probably a better question for the inspectors, but I mean, I think it's down to a lot of hard work.
What hoops do you have to go through?
So I think it's working every day on it. The sustainability isn't something that you just achieve and then therefore you have it and you can sort of relax. It's about every day trying to be better, trying to make a restaurant and a business that is overly sustainable.
So what things do you do to make it sustainable?
So one of the main things that we've really tried to do is focusing on British produce, and actually, you know, part of that is about sustainability and food miles. A massive part of it for us was also about sort of helping the British economy and the farming economy and our fisheries as well. But yeah, no, the idea...
You have a lot of farms near St. Bart's, which is in the heart of the City of London.
Well, funnily enough, there's an amazing collective called Shrub Provisions, who we use a hell of a lot, who work with farmers all around East Sussex. So it makes a difference from flying it in from Kenya or somewhere else like that. But no, like a big part of it was, one, using British produce to cut down on food miles, but also helping sustain our farming industry.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Time for the papers then with our political know-it-all, Thea Usherwood, because he does know it all, and former Minister Norman Baker, former Rail Minister actually, Norman, as we look at these train delays today.
Yes, I mean, this is very worrying, and we don't know what's happened exactly. I mean, Simon Calder, I heard a piece on there saying the disruption that's been caused. It looks to me like a cyber attack. It's a nationwide thing, and if it is, that's very worrying, because if we can have interventions on the rail network of this nature, then of course that could alter signals and everything else. So,
well, it would be very upsetting if it is, because it's that dedicated mobile network, and the police have one as well, and
exactly.
the army have stuff, and so you don't want all that coming.
So we need to find out what's happened, and we need to make sure that if it is something serious, it doesn't happen again.
But we knew, of course, the attack on the NHS and the chaos that caused back in the summer, and it's not just about hackers are often acting not necessarily for a particular state, whether that be Russia or whatever, but acting with their tacit approval, will go after parts of the supply chain, whether it's of the NHS or, in this case, of the onboard GSMR system that, of course, provides all the technology, the basis for the signalling. And we know that this is going to be an increased risk. Richard Horne, who is, of course, the head of the Cybersecurity Centre, has warned about an increased risk, particularly given that Keir Starmer is understood to have personally authorised the use of 12 Storm Shadow missiles on Russian territory last month, following, of course, that decision by Joe Biden to allow long-range missiles. But I'm not saying that's the reason this has happened, but I'm just trying to provide some context as to where we find ourselves.
Well, of course, we should point out we don't know it's been an attack. It may just be that, obviously, former Transport Secretary Louise Haigh has just taken the SIM card with her when she's left the job. But we'll, but as we get more details in, we'll let you know. Bitcoin in the mirror, Theo. Everyone looks at this and goes, "Oh, I wish I'd bought a bit of Bitcoin."
Exactly what I thought when I read this story this morning.
I mean, it's incredible, but it's off the basis of Donald Trump. It's now surpassed one Bitcoin is now north of $100,000. To think that it was way down only recently, down at sort of $17,000 to buy a Bitcoin. But Trump has they call it he's tapped into that. During the election, he tapped into that cyber bro sort of ideology, or I don't know if that's the right word, but sort of mentality. And Bitcoin has surged. He's known to favour further deregulation of the cyber currencies, and I think it's significant. And it was interesting, actually. I was listening to Anthony Scaramucci, who of course worked very briefly for Donald Trump, pointing to the fact that one area, and of course he was supportive of Kamala Harris, saying that one area he thought during that election she could really strengthen her campaign, which she of course ultimately lost, was to be much more pro cryptocurrency, because he thought she was missing a trick, and indeed the Democrats had missed a trick with Biden in office.
Yeah, I don't understand it, which is the problem. It scares me a little bit, Bitcoin. It's
unregulated. Things can go up and things can go down, so people who want to speculate need to be very careful they don't get their fingers burned. Mind you,
I did hear one young man yesterday saying he'd been left $1,000 by his granddad when he died, and he bought 100 because he had... they were $10 a Bitcoin, and he bought 100. He's now worth $10 million.
Lucky man.
God, he did well, didn't he? Norman, let's have a look at the Times, shall we? And something we probably already know, that free speech has declined on campuses.
Yes, this is a very depressing story in the Times, and it probably reinforces what we might think already, but nevertheless, I think it's worth drawing attention to it. There's been a poll of a global poll of university staff. 77% said that free speech was now more limited than 10 years ago, which is, I think, rather worrying. One particular academic said that student consumers now increasingly dictate what they want to hear in lectures and seminars. Another one said, this is in Britain, they teach with as little personality as possible because significant members of students find offence in anything that they dislike. I mean, the university
crazy.
University is about freedom of speech. It's about exchanging ideas. It's about challenging each other.
Being offended at times.
And critical thinking, being able to bring in, to think about what other people's opinions. I interviewed an Oxford history professor a couple of months back, and he was saying, he specialised in his area of knowledge was slave trade, and he was saying that, he was often the case when he was teaching in summer schools where, students would come in and they'd be very cautious about what they would say in seminars for fear of coming out of that seminar and being cancelled by their fellow students.
Well, it's all well and good to mock the students. The problem is they're going to be there. Give it another 20, 30 years, they're going to be running the country.
Yes, but how are we going to change policy if we're not allowed to say anything which is critical of the existing, the critical mass of where people are?
It's madness. Norman, Theo, we've got to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed.
Let's have a look at the weather now with...
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into the weekend, Storm Dara is likely to bring some heavy rain and strong winds at times, with multiple Met Office warnings in force, and we're likely to see some disruption as we head into the weekend. To start off on Friday, though, it's almost the calm before the storm. Plenty of blue skies, lots of dry weather, just a few showers feeding in around coast of Scotland. But through into the afternoon, we will see a change as cloud spills in from the west, heavy outbreaks of rain around western coast and through into Northern Ireland. And we'll start to see some very gusty winds as we head into the afternoon too. Turning milder under that cloud and rain, but along eastern areas, another chilly day on offer. Now, as we head through into the evening, those heavy outbreaks of rain are going to continue to move their way eastwards, falling as snow mainly across high ground, across parts of Scotland, also around northern parts of England too. A largely dry end to the very far northeast of Scotland, but it won't be long before that rain starts to move in. Similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, heavy and blustery outbreaks of rain, falling as snow at times once again across higher ground. And similar elsewhere across England and Wales, a very wet end to the day and turning increasingly blustery as we head into the evening too. Multiple wind warnings out around coastal areas and through into inland areas as well. Heavy outbreaks of rain sweeping their way across the country. Still heavy at times overnight and still falling as snow mainly in northern areas too, and turning very blustery, particularly around western coasts. And it is going to be a chilly night on offer, particularly in those very brisk winds. So a very unsettled start to the weekend. Once again, we'll see those outbreaks of rain sweep across the country. Still heavy at times and still falling as snow across northern areas. But we're going to also see very strong winds, a risk of gales, if not severe gales at times, across Northern Ireland, western coasts of England and Wales too, where there is an amber warning in force. And it is going to feel particularly chilly in the brisk winds. Bye for now.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. There are delays and cancellations to a number of train services this morning because of a nationwide technical problem affecting communication between train drivers and signal workers. Buses replaced trains between Leeds and both Doncaster and Shipley because of flooding and because of overhead line problems, with trains between Leeds and Nottingley via Wakefield Westgate diverting, and trains between Leeds and Sheffield diverting via Darton. There are delays of up to 20 minutes to trains between Machynlleth, both Pwllheli and Aberystwyth because of a signalling problem. In Hertfordshire, the A10 is closed northbound off the A121 at Cheshunt for an investigation causing long delays. In Devon, the A39 is impassable because of flooding near to Paracombe. There are some cancelled trains between Southampton Airport and Basingstoke because of overrunning engineering works, and Hover travel services between Southsea and Ryde are suspended because of a technical problem.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For your chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5. £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The Prime Minister faces backlash after setting out 6 key milestones.
Sir Keir Starmer is accused of watering down 2 of his key election pledges amid signs the economy is struggling in the wake of the budget.
He also promised to take on NIMBYs holding major projects to ransom as he ushers in a new era.
I expect to be judged on my ability to deal with it. And the work of change has begun.
Rush hour trains are delayed this morning because of a nationwide fault with a communication system, according to National Rail.
Emmanuel Macron vows to stay on as president after his government is toppled following a vote of no confidence.
Today marks My Turkey Day, where Britain celebrates homegrown turkey meat ahead of Christmas. Our reporter Will Hollis is on a farm in Lincolnshire.
Good morning. We're live in Sleaford as the National Farmers Union is encouraging you to buy your Christmas turkey locally this year. Gobble, gobble, gobble.
Hello there. Many of us will be waking up to blue skies this morning, but Storm Dara is on its way, bringing heavy outbreaks of rain and strong winds. I'll be here with all the details.
It's just got 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
I can't believe the turkeys did not react.
Oh, he's at one with the turkeys.
They should have gone mad.
They're very relaxed with him, clearly.
Very chilled, very
Oh,
chilled. I'm just so disappointed that the turkeys did not respond to his gobble gobble.
So
that would have been brilliant.
Apparently, turkeys react to the colour red. So, Will Hollis, if you're listening, you need to put on a red jumper and then they'll all start squawking.
Really?
Yeah, apparently.
Oh, is that
Same as bulls, maybe. They just go a bit crazy over the colour red. Yeah, That's the trick. If you want an animated turkey, you wear red.
Right, there you go.
Fun fact of the day. Every day's a school day.
We'll see if we can work that out for him in the next 5 minutes. Right, to the breaking news this morning, which is not anything to look forward to if you're travelling by train or planning to today, if you're a commuter. A nationwide fault is affecting rail services right across the country. That's the message from National Rail.
Well, the issue relates to the communication system used between train drivers and signallers, so travellers are being advised to check before they travel today.
Well, we're going to have the very latest, of course, online at gbnews.com. But earlier we spoke to travel correspondent for The Independent, Simon Calder.
So what we've got is a failure of the global system for mobile communications for railways, known as GSMR. This is its dedicated network. It's nothing to do with the normal mobile phone network that allows train drivers to communicate with signallers, and therefore it's actually very important. But unfortunately, it has developed a fault this morning. The impact across the country is very patchy. What I'm seeing, for instance, in London Waterloo, one of the 3 busiest stations in Britain, cancellations of trains coming in. Elsewhere, we're seeing delays on the line that runs basically through London, north to south, from Brighton to Gatwick, through London up to Cambridge, to Bedford and to Peterborough. Also, there's warnings of problems on the Elizabeth line going east-west through the capital. ScotRail was having problems, but they now seem to have been cleared up. And if the mobile network fault doesn't get you, the fallen tree between Wakefield and Leeds may possibly do that. So a messy old start to the Friday rush hour for an awful lot of people, I'm afraid.
Yeah, we'll keep you up to date with that, of course, as more details emerge. In the meantime, Labour pledging to tackle NIMBYism and launch a golden age of house building.
Well, it's all part of Sir Keir Starmer's 6 milestones announced yesterday that he says voters can use to judge him against by the next election.
Well, have a listen to the pledges he made.
Higher living standards in every region of the country. Britain rebuilt with 1.5 million new homes, safer streets, more police on the beat, the best start in life for every child, with a record proportion of 5-year-olds starting school ready to learn, clean power by 2030, homegrown British energy, waiting lists in our NHS cut.
Well, the announcement has been met with criticism, with warnings that his pledge to build 1.5 million homes by the end of Parliament could be unattainable.
The PM also getting criticism for not outlining any new targets on migration.
Well,
nobody cares about that, do they?
Well, according to Labour, maybe they don't. Well, our political editor, Christopher Hope, joins us in the studio now. Chris, glaring omission yesterday. No migration in this list of 6 pledges.
It was the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Morning, both. Great to see you in person.
Yeah, good
yes,
to see you.
up in Pinewood Studio, home of the Carry On movies, Mission Impossible. I'll stop all the jokes there. They want to tell us about 007, James Bond, the Sean Connery stage, all that kind of mission idea from this government. But it is a bit confusing. There's lots of different things happening here, aren't there? We've seen foundations, missions.
Hold on a minute, I missed this yesterday. Is that why that location was picked?
I don't know why things are chosen. We're meant to think it's the mission of this government.
You see, that's spin, PR and nonsense, isn't it?
Well, it is a bit, but they are trying to re-spin this government into having a degree of focus, lifting living standards. They're dropping the idea of being a fastest growing economy in the G7, which means very little to people on the ground, GB News viewers included, instead of lifting our living standards. But in truth, they never fall during a parliament. They normally go up anyway, so that's an easy one to tick. The harder ones are 1.5 million homes in England, fast-tracking planning processes, stopping the blockers, making more homes being built. But you may argue if we're going to have 300,000 net increase in immigration every year for 5 years, that's your new homes soaked up there already. I mean, this is why I think some of these plans, and that is a hard target to hit, but other ones are easier. I think the big one, I think, for many people, the hardest one, and the most welcome one if they get there, is 9 in 10 of us to be treated on the NHS in 18 weeks. Currently, it's 6 in 10. So to get to 9 in 10, who are in pain, they're hurting, they want to be treated, we wish them well in that.
But why set out milestones with the end of Parliament target? So it's best part of 5 years away. We're going to forget, if they hit them, we're going to forget these milestones ever existed by then. It all seems slightly nonsensical rather than just getting on and governing.
This is meant to focus Whitehall. Whitehall is a huge amorphous thing, and often there's a narrow number of ministers at the top of these departments trying to make them deliver on behalf of the government. This document should land with the weight of a gauntlet being put down, we're told, by Keir Starmer, and that's why they're doing it. But why now? Why not on day 2 after the government? You know, why not do it in January when everyone's looking forward to the new year? I can't answer that question. I mean, it's 5 months into the day since the election. Maybe that's it. I think, you know, the issue of migration, though, was something which I thought was interesting, and why wasn't it there? I asked Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, that very question for our viewers. Is migration not in here explicitly because it's too hard to fix? It's just too hard.
So it is explicitly as part of the plan for change. It's actually one of the foundations of the plan for change, because border security alongside national security and economic stability, those are the three things that actually become the big foundations that underpin everything. So we say very clearly in the plan for change that we need to bring down legal migration and bring down illegal migration. We've seen legal migration soar. We've seen this fourfold increase in overseas recruitment at a time when training in the UK has been cut. Well, that is just a broken system, and we also are setting out the further action on going after the criminal gangs.
That's Yvette Kubler, the Home Secretary, talking to GB News, which is good news, of course. Reducing illegal and legal migration. Again, look at Reform UK. They are zero net migration. The Tories tried and failed 4 or 5 times to hit a target of fewer than 100,000 on the net migration figure. And, of course, stopping the boats failed altogether. So maybe that's why they're not doing a target they can't get even near to hitting. Therefore, they just want to cut it, which is, frankly, what any government should try and do. Not really challenging, is it?
I thought the message from Sir Keir Starmer to civil servants was very interesting yesterday. Quite a stern message,
Yes, get out of your tepid bath, Ellie. No one likes tepid baths. Do you like a tepid bath?
No, I like it roasting hot.
Roasting hot. So does Keir Starmer, clearly. He thinks tepid baths are bad for work-life balance. And he thinks that too many civil servants are accepting not doing a proper good job on delivery. He wants to punch through reform, use AI, all the language that someone else used once. Remember Dominic Cummings?
Yeah.
He was the one who attacked
was he right all along?
Well, the whisper in Whitehall is that many people now in government, all these Labour types, get in there thinking, blimey, maybe he was. Because he was a kind of wanted to upset the apple cart, get things going, get things moving, and he saw what they call the civil service blob just resisting change. Of course, they typically work 3 and 5 days from home, which some say is an issue with productivity.
Yeah, interesting. Just very quickly, because we're out of time, but I just wonder, with the migration issue, how much is going to change if Trump achieves what he says he will achieve stateside? How much will that impact how we look at things over here?
Well, I think it might well do. There's polling out yesterday putting Reform ahead of Labour, amazingly, on 24 points, 23 on Labour, Tories on 26 points. There's a forecast based on that if that election held today, Reform would win 95 MPs. And people like Angela Rayner, Wes Streeting, Shabana Mahmood, big names in the Labour government, will be kicked out by Farage's army. That is a possibility, and I think that idea of reform, if Trump starts to succeed in dealing with migration, that will translate across to this country too.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Chris, as always, good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, it's time now for our biggest and greatest Great British giveaway this year, and your chance to win £50,000 in tax-free cash. Here's how it could all be yours.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, best of luck. Money's a wonderful thing if you can get a whole load of it. However, what matters at the moment, of course, is Advent as we run up to Christmas. And every day we have a special message from a minister for you.
The GB News Advent Calendar, Day 6.
Hi, I'm Tom Finnemore. At Christmas, I find I'm surrounded by excess. The pressure to buy the perfect gifts, the ever-increasing temptation to overindulge in food and drink, and the constant pressure to have more. But the Bible offers a different perspective. In Isaiah it says, "Woe to those who rise early in the morning to run after their drinks, who stay up late at night till they're inflamed with wine." This wisdom speaks to the dangers of excess, of filling our lives with things that promise satisfaction, but if we're honest, ultimately leave us feeling empty. It reminds us that the true gift of the season isn't found in what we consume or buy, or how much we can fit into our lives, but in something much deeper. The birth of Jesus Christ, who brings the gift of peace and the promise of hope. So this Christmas, let's slow down, be present with those we love, remembering that lasting fulfillment comes not from excess, but from gratitude and contentment found in the person of Jesus Christ. Have a Merry Christmas.
And we've got all of our Advent messages online for you, gbnews.com/Advent.
Still to come, it's Buy My Turkey Day, and Will Hollis is on a turkey farm in Lincolnshire for us. We'll be heading there next.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Locals in Abingdon in Oxfordshire have signed a petition to keep the name of their local pub, and it's called The Midget. Now, this comes after a university lecturer led an 11-month campaign to change the name of the pub, and the owners, Green King, have caved in. But locals are fighting back, and GB News spoke to one resident, Leanne Thompson, for her thoughts earlier today.
I'm not feeling great about it, to be honest. You know, it's a pub that's been here for a very long time. It's called The Midget after a MG car, and they're changing it to the Roaring Raindrop, which a lot of people are not happy about. We know why they're changing it, but a lady apparently came in who was very upset at the offensive term for the name midget. But nobody here sees it as an offensive term. You don't see the midget and feel any kind of offence towards that. It's named after a car. If she was to actually come, she might actually know more about it, but apparently she's not even been into the pub. She's just heard about it and broadcasted on social media that she wanted the name changed because it's offensive, which as locals don't feel that way. It's the midget. It will always be the midget. And if you look, it's even still on Midget Close. So I don't know if they're going to change it to the Roaring Raindrop Close.
Do you know, you should walk into the Midget now and go, "Do you serve shorts?" And just keep going on the joke. It's named after a car, the MG Midget, that was manufactured in the town of Abingdon for a while. The car was released in 1961. The Boozer was built in 1974, giving huge pride to the area. It wasn't named after midgets, you know, the Snow White and the 7 vertically challenged individuals variety. It's named after a car.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, today could be your plucky day.
Oh, very good. It's My Turkey Day, a day for Brits to celebrate homegrown turkey meat ahead of the festive period.
Woohoo!
Says the vegetarian in the room.
Vegetarian, yeah. Let's head over to Will Hollis, who's on a farm in Lincolnshire. Morning, Will.
Good morning. Yes, Lincolnshire, the capital of farming. Today it's also the capital of cold. We've got the storm on the way, and Lincolnshire, if anybody knows, is incredibly flat. It's also incredibly noisy this morning because I'm on a turkey farm live with Hannah, who's one of the people who's going to be feeding the nation with turkeys as we go into Christmas. It's, of course, the National Farmers Union Buy My Turkey Day. It's the 8th annual Buy My Turkey Day. Why is it so important to buy locally, direct from source this Christmas, as the union wants people to do?
It's so important to be supporting our farmers, especially at the moment. And so when you buy a turkey direct from the farmer, then all of the money that comes from that sale goes into the farmers' pockets rather than disappearing into supermarket profits. And us local family farmers really need that support at the moment, so that's really great.
We're here in Sleaford. We've got about 100 turkeys. Just talk me through some of the turkeys so that the people on the screen know what they're getting here. What's the difference here between some of them have got great big plumage and some look a little bit more bare? They don't have as many big feathers.
Absolutely. So these are Norfolk black turkeys. It's a rare breed of turkey, so they really have a fantastic flavour. These turkeys are outdoors all year round, so they are from a regenerative system, and we call them pastured poultry, so they're out most of the time. They're moved on multiple times during the week, and they have, what we're looking at is a mixture of stags and hens. So the stags look a little bit like peacocks. They've got these big displays of tail feathers, and the hens don't have those. But what's quite interesting with the display of tail feathers is it's a kind of a dominance hierarchy thing, that the ones that have the most complete sets of feathers, they're the top dogs with the turkey world.
Top dogs in the turkey world. So these are the turkeys that in a few days' time will be heading off to the abattoir, because they're going to be feeding British people, probably local people mainly, who come and buy your turkeys. What is it they're buying? Why not just go get a turkey from the local supermarket? What's the difference?
Absolutely. So for these turkeys in particular here at the Inkpot Farm, our turkeys are Great Taste award winning, and a big part of that is because they're kept outside. They have as natural a diet as possible, so they're organic, and we feed them organic feeds. We also feed them some fermented food as well, and a big part of that goes into the flavour of the turkey. They're outside, they're happy, they're fed as a natural diet as we can, and for that we get the whole turkey that's fantastically juicy and succulent. It's nothing like that kind of white, dry meat that people associate with turkeys.
So you're saying taste. What about what the farmer gets as well, the profit compared to a supermarket turkey?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a big part of us regenerative farmers and farmers that are trying to direct sell that we want to be price makers, not price takers, and so just trying to get a fair wage for our farmers. So we have a fantastic fair trade scheme, but that is internationally. We don't have a fair trade scheme for this country. So the best thing you can do is buy direct from farmers.
That's what we always hear. Buy British. Hannah, thank you so much. Let's give it one last go from Sleaford. Gobble, 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 gobble. I said gobble, gobble, gobble. Good morning. All in a day's work.
Well done,
There we go. We got there in the end. Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much indeed. I tell you what, it's a really great.
Oh, there they go again.
It's a really great message, though, isn't it? Buy it from your farm, because I didn't think of that, but because farmers are under all this, they're under the cosh at the minute, aren't they?
They are.
Buy direct from your farmer.
They get the profit then, rather than the supermarkets.
Yeah, it's a really good idea.
Especially with everything that farmers are going through at the moment. Get out and support your local farmer if you can. And that does remind me, I have a local turkey farm.
Do you?
Yeah. I should go order.
They gobble,
if I'm not
gobble
too late.
like that.
They do gobble, gobble, gobble like that.
Yeah. I'm glad he got them to do it in the end.
Thank
heaven.
I think they were very at home with Will Hollis. I think that's what it was.
They liked him.
They did.
Anyway, look, enough of us being daft. There's some serious news this morning with Ben Leo and Emma Trimble. Good morning, you two very serious people.
Never seen so many gobblers on screen.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
I had a turkey patty yesterday with scrambled egg at my local gym. It was very nice. Yeah, new
Healthy.
dish on the menu.
Very healthy.
I won't say where, but delicious.
Oh. Very festive of you, Ben.
Yeah. Lots going on today, aside from turkeys and gobblers. London Assembly member Alex Wilson will be on the show to discuss the Arise Sir Sadiq Khan. The nomination
Famous
from
gobbler.
Sir Keir Starmer. Hey, he's getting a knighthood, the Mayor of London. Does he deserve it?
Well, it's not been confirmed, though, has it?
He will. He will.
I'm just trying to be...
No smoke without fire.
Yeah, we've also got a story about the NHS entering into these contracts to pay for at-home care for migrants in these hotels in places where the elderly are waiting up to a month for an appointment with their GP. So that's definitely one that's going to stir the pot. We've got the Director of Migration. What do you want to talk about that one?
What are they meant to do? I mean, this is the problem with all of this. You can't ignore... If migrants are going to be brought in, you can't ignore their health needs whilst they're being housed or whatever. You can't ignore it. Of course you can't. But then how do you prioritise? You can't have your own population who've paid into the system all their lives being pushed to the back of the list. It's ridiculous, isn't it? I don't know how you square the circle on that one.
Well, stop the boats.
Well,
just don't allow them in.
In the longer term, but in the immediate term, what do you do? But we've got all these people can't get bus passes.
But
and
all they
things
just
now.
have to, be in the system like everybody else in the local area, rather than having sort of fast-tracked priority where they get at-home care. When if we can pay for these contracts for migrants to have at-home care, why can't we pay for those contracts for the elderly instead?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what will be winding people up this morning.
Well, it will be, understandably.
Elsewhere, Donald Trump is heading to France either today or tomorrow. To open the Notre Dame Cathedral and also...
awkward for Macron.
Yeah, political turmoil in France at the moment.
We like a bit of political turmoil, don't we?
We love it.
Well, at least it's not us.
No. Right, you two, we'll see you in a couple of minutes. That's it from us. Time for the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into the weekend, Storm Dara is likely to bring some heavy rain and strong winds at times, with multiple Met Office warnings in force, and we're likely to see some disruption as we head into the weekend. To start off on Friday, though, it's almost the calm before the storm. Plenty of blue skies, lots of dry weather, just a few showers feeding in around coast of Scotland. But through into the afternoon, we will see a change as cloud spills in from the west, heavy outbreaks of rain around western coast and through into Northern Ireland. And we'll start to see some very gusty winds as we head into the afternoon too. Turning milder under that cloud and rain, but along eastern areas, another chilly day on offer. Now, as we head through into the evening, those heavy outbreaks of rain are going to continue to move their way eastwards, falling as snow mainly across high ground, across parts of Scotland, also around northern parts of England too. A largely dry end to the very far northeast of Scotland, but it won't be long before that rain starts to move in. Similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of